Time travel commencing in T-minus 10 seconds and counting.
It's once again time to go back in time as we head back to the future on the WDW News Today podcast. Let's set our time coordinates for this week's trip through Disney Parks history with Professor Tom Corliss.
It's time to go back.
Where, Tom? Where?
Back to the future. Nick and Jason. They did that. That wasn't even rehearsed. That was pretty good. It's once again time to go through the history of the Disney parks, from past favorites to current attractions, and in this case, both, because it's a thing that somehow lasted for 50 years intermittently. So, anyway, we're celebrating 50 years of the Main Street Electrical Parade. It was 50 years ago this evening. The first version debuted at Disneyland, and of course, it's performed all over the world in many different versions, and that's why we have this giant script in front of us tonight, because there's a lot to cover. Joining me, we have Nick Cicero.
Howdy.
Jason Diffendahl.
Hey, howdy, hey.
And all the way from Tokyo, Japan, Spencer's with us. Hello, Spencer.
Good morning.
And you can tell everyone wore their Electrical Parade clothing. Spencer's got his Elliot shirt. Jason has his Little Mermaid shirt. Nick has his Tampa Bay Buccaneers shirt. I have a regular Disneyland shirt. And we have the Cadillac range, a staple of the Electrical Parade. We celebrated 10 years of Cars Land on News Tonight this week, so the Cadillac range is back here. But what were you going to say?
It was a backdrop for part of the Electrical Parade.
It left.
Sort of.
So Electrical Parade left before
Oh, did it?
Cars Land opened, yeah.
Oh, all right.
It left right before World of Color debuted, which was 2010.
right,
Cars
that's
Land was
right.
12. If we were talking about Paint the Night, then yeah, this would
that's
have been far off in the distance as you watched that one short run of Paint the Night. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Already. There's a lot to cover. Again, today we celebrate 50 years of the parade. Already here on YouTube. Earlier today we released, I was lucky enough to have Don Dorsey join me at Disneyland. Don worked a lot on the 1977 and a lot of the subsequent versions of Electrical Parade, and we had a really fun 20-ish minute interview that's up on the channel you can watch already. For those of you that have never watched this segment before, what we do is go through exquisite, painstaking detail of the entire history of a particular thing in the Disney parks. In this case, obviously, it's the Electrical Parade. That would make sense, given that it's the 50th tonight. Some reminders before we get into this, because it's a lot. Number one, please hit the like button if you enjoy the show. It really means a lot. It helps other people find this. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to this channel. We are going to do these somewhat more regularly. We have another one of these coming up at our 15th anniversary event next month. We're going to talk about the Country Bear Jamboree. So these will be back on a somewhat regular basis throughout the rest of the year if you like them. So if you really enjoy them, there's two great ways you can support this sort of content from WDWNT. The first way is a super chat right here on YouTube. This is a live program, so you can do that. And no matter when, no matter where, you could always join the WDWNT Interglobe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. That's a great way to get exclusive content. You get discounted tickets to our event if you want to come in person, or even for the digital ticket if you want to stream it from home. All sorts of really cool things come with that, and it's a great way to support all the website content, the videos, everything we do here at WDWNT. But with all that housekeeping out of the way, is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's punch those time coordinates. We're going back to October 24th, 1971. And that is the dedication of Disney's Polynesian Village Resort. And you might be wondering, what the hell does that have to do with the Main Street Electrical Parade? Well, that was the first public showing of the electrical water pageant at Walt Disney World. At the time, there were 14 barges with simple lighting floating around the lagoon to a song from 1967 called Baroque Hoedown. Although there is some argument as to if Baroque played at the beginning or not. Don doesn't know. They can't figure out what played or what didn't.
Don doesn't know what played, but he
No.
doesn't think it was Baroque Hoedown.
But at some point between...
They switched it.
at some point in time, it did become borough code down in the 70s. So at some point that happened.
You mean no one was recording it on their phone and posted it on social media? It was a big time in Disney's history.
I would imagine, I'm not a photography or videography historian. I would imagine nighttime in 1971 on whatever device was available for you to film on, it would have been incredibly hard to film a bunch of Christmas lights many miles out in the Seven Seas Lagoon. That's, like, I know there is some footage that exists. It was on the grand opening special and things like that. There are some photos and some footage that exists.
I mean, amateur, it would have been 8mm film.
Yeah. Which would have had sound or would not have had sound?
Possibly. Some could, some would.
Depends.
Depends.
Okay.
A lot of it was silent.
Yeah. So that's why no one has ever found video of it this early. So no one knows. No one knows what played.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Because now we live obviously in the age of the internet and the Disney fandom becoming more of an established thing. Like, there is not a single thing that is undocumented in the last, I mean, practically you go back to the 80s. I think once you get into the 80s, everything is pretty much, there's at least a photograph of it in existence.
I mean, I think Epcot really, that's the first park that's fully documented.
Yeah, and I mean, even like 70s Magic Kingdom, there's not a whole lot that was missed. I don't think there's a lot of like missing pieces, but here and there's some things. Once you go before the 80s, there are some things in the history of the Disney parks that are just sort of rumors or not, like no one really knows. Like the Hatbox Ghost was that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then finally, like someone found that video. I mean, God, that was 40, 50 years later. So.
Well, yeah, you changed the color of a sidewalk now, and it's documented.
Yeah,
like,
that's
the history of the color of this sidewalk.
We do document that.
Yeah.
So like, but it's true. Like you never know. Someday someone could find in someone's attic or somewhere some sort of footage with audio. So we'll.
I mean, it's kind of like the original narrator of Spaceship Earth.
Where no one knows,
Nobody
right?
knows.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the one that Marty said it's not? He said it's not Vic Perrin?
It's not Vic Perrin.
Okay. Dobkin?
Larry Dobkin.
Larry
was the other
Dobkin,
one.
he thinks, but then other people don't think it was. So no one knows. Anyway, and that was the 80s, so.
That's right.
Still no one knows. Anyway, so electrical water pageant debuts, Walt Disney World, and Disneyland management is in attendance. Obviously, they were invited, and they're there, and they see this new piece of nighttime entertainment. And meanwhile, over at Disneyland, they're having problems getting people to stay in the parks after about 6:30 p.m. Obviously, they've had fireworks. They've been doing that since '55. That was, the park's already over 15 years old at this point, so it's 16 years old at this point. So people look at this and they're like, that's something. So Card Walker called Bob Yanni and Ron Miziker and told them they had to do something for Disneyland with all this press that Disney World was getting upon its opening. They didn't want the world to forget Disneyland. So seeing as there was no internet, Ron Miziker went down to the Anaheim Public Library and came across an article about how at the turn of the 20th century, when electricity was a new thing, people in cities would string light bulbs together and parade down the street.
With a big extension cord.
Yeah, I guess they just ran a lot of
String 'em
wire,
together,
right?
yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
There definitely was no wireless charging of any kind at that point.
And they didn't have batteries to do that with.
So they contracted a designer named Ken Dresser, who was brought in to start laying out concepts and ideas. They made a presentation to Card Walker and other executives who immediately said, let's do it. And the first question became, though, how do you do it? How are we going to power it? You couldn't use generators legally, plus they were noisy and smelly, so it wasn't ideal. So engineer Jeffrey Hefferly from the Disneyland Maintenance Department kept trying to do what he could with batteries, but they never seemed to work. They even talked about electrifying the trolley tracks at one point.
That's insane.
How would that have even worked? Because the trolley tracks don't go the whole parade route. Did they think there'd be a way to
And that feels dangerous.
Induction charging didn't exist at this
No,
point. So there was no plan to it'll run the trolley track, and then once we get to the hub, it's just gonna jump the track.
They would have had to alter the parade route, right? Like it would have been
Sure.
a different parade route.
Maybe just 3 floats that are on the trolley track and they just go in a circle
Yeah.
for a while. I don't know. But as always with a 70s Disney park story, it's time for some fun with Dick Nunes. He was vice president of Disneyland at the time. He felt the electrical parade was unnecessary, as Disneyland was going to open the Country Bear Jamboree in 1972. They knew it was such a surefire hit. They're like, we'll build 2 theaters. How can it go wrong? We'll save that for next month's Back to the Future. So a final, in classic Dick Nunes fashion, maybe he was even wearing shorts at the time, we don't know, but a final ultimatum was given in January of '72 that they had 2 weeks to solve the issues or the parade was canceled. Luckily, new batteries called nickel-cadmium batteries that were lightweight had just come out, and it looked like they would be the solution with just 3 days left to go. After some tests, it was decided the solution was strong enough to power the lights, the sound system, and power units that would be used to drive the floats. They could make it through the park one way before having to be recharged for a second performance.
It's insane.
I knew to stop because we talked about batteries, and I know Jason Diffendahl wants to talk about batteries.
It's insane to me that they couldn't figure out a way to use car batteries.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Because car batteries
Charges,
are
recharges.
pretty, existing technology.
Yeah.
I think the problem with car batteries, from what I remember, is that they were just way too heavy to be able to have enough of them on the float to power everything, including the float itself.
Well, you have to remember, we're going to talk about this, but again, these are not, you're thinking about this parade in 1972. It is not really a Disney Parks parade as you know it now. You think about a parade float now, they're very big, heavy mechanical things. These were not. These were, a lot of these were flat.
They were flat. They were
And
like
so again,
electrical water pageant.
The batteries would have been 10 times heavier than the rest of the float,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
in the case of the water pageant, they did have a heavy pontoon underneath them to begin with.
That's right. They had, the water pageant had plenty of capacity to have a battery on the boat.
Yeah.
These electrical parade floats really were, if you think about it, it was like a trailer with the screen portion of the electrical water pageant, stood up, and that was it. So there
majority of
wasn't
it,
a
yeah.
lot to it.
It's funny because that's what I was going to ask. Couldn't they call up Orlando and say, "Hey, how'd you power those boat floats?" I
assume they knew. I mean, they all talked to each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had gone across, right?
Yeah.
People that
Yeah.
worked
I would think
at
so.
Disneyland were like called up, or like, we're going to do Disney World. We're going to need you to come over.
I think
so,
also the electrical water pageant is much shorter.
yeah.
Right, like it does 3 performances, but they're relatively short.
Yeah.
And the boats have their own motors, right? These batteries had to power the floats motion as well as the lights and the
A
sound.
sound system, which
And the boats, electrical water pageant boats, just had their regular outboard motors.
which the floats were doing all the heavy lifting audio-wise
Yes, they
originally
were.
as well. So like, as you experience a parade today where the music is also coming from the buildings, that wasn't a thing. That didn't really work yet.
Oh,
So,
right.
That didn't,
Yeah.
no, everything came from the float.
Yeah, so they didn't have the technology to have audio
The
change.
synchronized audio,
Yeah, that
yeah,
wasn't possible yet. But even with that figured out, it was only the start of their troubles. The decision to use small Christmas-style lights was a problem as only one manufacturer made them, believe it or not. Only one
insane.
manufacturer,
Made Christmas lights
period, made
in
these
1972.
specific style Christmas
That's
lights.
insane. I can't
And they
even-
only made them in white.
That's absolutely, you would tell me this and I would be like, you're full of crap. There's no way that's true.
So it required, I mean, this came from our, many, many years ago, we interviewed Ron Mizik, one of the co-creators, and this is the story he told. And so it required them to hand dip the lights into a color medium, and obviously they had a lot of different colors in the parades, so there was a lot of work to be done there. The company Silvestri in Chicago was contracted to build the units for a large sum of money, and when Ron Mizik took a trip to Chicago to check on the project about a month and a half prior to the opening, not much was done. So Ron and Bob decided that everything that already existed would be shipped to California. A giant circus tent was erected backstage at Disneyland in preparation for the arrival of 14 moving vans full of the Main Street Electrical Parade. Electricians and carpenters were hired to work in shifts 24 hours a day to complete the parade in time. And the lights dimming on Main Street also forced the rewiring of all of Main Street USA at Disneyland.
Because they never had a need to dim the lights on Main Street at night.
They only need to go on and off.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So the first 2 scheduled rehearsals were canceled and only one was held, and it was a disaster. The floats fell apart, cast members were being electrocuted, and floats were not finishing the route. They were dying before they got to the end. This, by the way, was 2 days before the debut. Mm-hmm. That's it. They had 2 days to go until that first official performance, as you would have guessed, on June 17th, 1972, where Bob and Ron were standing behind the parade gate. And as the floats were readying to move from backstage to Main Street, the lights on the units were lit for the first time. Oh, boy.
They do rehearsals like we do.
Yeah, pretty much. Dozens of electricians were still working on the lights, and they would hop off of them just before the unit would go through the gate into public view. Ron said, quote, "The sight of that happening was like people jumping ship prior to it sinking." The original floats, of course, were the Blue Fairy, Casey Jr. Circus Train, Alice in Wonderland, a Chinese Dragon, Dumbo Circus, Cinderella's Ball, It's a Small World, and the finale. In 1973, the Chinese Dragon became the Sleeping Beauty Dragon, kind of. Loosely based on Maleficent. It's arguable how much it looked like it.
They just called it that.
Yeah, they got away from the Chinese Dragon for whatever reason. For the most part, the floats were 2-dimensional. Some of them had 3-dimensional elements or were completely 3D. So now, I think Jake has a little video for us that I found. This is about as much amateur footage as exists of the parade in '72. Jake, if you want to bring that audio down a little bit, we'll talk about a few things. So that's a very different looking Blue Fairy.
It also doesn't look blue.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
This is amazing.
Some banners made of light. I mean, it's pretty good for 1972.
This is good, yeah. I mean, these were people walking carrying these
Yeah,
banners.
no, but they look.
So, like,
look
they
pretty
had
good.
to have battery packs too.
Right? That's what.
Well, that's why they were getting
Look at
electrocuted.
that.
Casey Jr. shaking all the way down the track.
Yep.
So, like we said, some things were flat. A majority was flat. A few things were 3-dimensional. This was
The beginning.
yeah. The rumor is, this has never been confirmed by anyone. This drum float is actually much older than the electrical parade. So if you've watched some of those Wonderful World of Disney specials, World of Color, or whatever, from when Walt was alive, there's some Disneyland episodes where you'll see like Mickey in a parade banging a big drum. The rumor is that that's the framework of that drum. Like they just took the drum away from the daytime parade, and that's it. And it's always been that frame. But that's just speculation. No one's ever been able to get an answer about it, but that's what people think.
Makes sense. I would believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it was done in a hurry and on a budget, so.
I'll tell you though, imagine going to Disneyland, like you said, it's been open for 15, 16 years at this point. And at night, like going and being used to what a normal nighttime at Disneyland would be like, then going and it just comes alive like this.
Yeah.
That's probably, that has to be a big wow factor.
I think at this point, like you're talking about like a 15-year period where people in California were just continually in awe of whatever Disneyland would
Yeah.
do,
Yeah,
right? So,
right?
you know, in '59, you had the Matterhorn and the monorail and the subs, Tiki Room, and Abraham Lincoln stood up and spoke to you, and Carousel of Progress and Pirates and Mansion. And then this, after all that, an electrical parade.
Right, well, who's doing a parade of lights, right, at night? Like,
Well, no one was
obviously-
doing robot humans either,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It's an amazing, it's an amazing period of time. The first, 15 or so years of Disneyland.
Wow.
There's
And to think
Dumbo.
that's just, like the Christmas lights.
What's actually amazing about this is the motion of the lights, right? So like most of the lights are just on, but there are enough that are sparkling or twinkling or chasing or whatever. Like Christmas lights were obviously very new technology, but yet somehow in the programming of all this, they were able to make those lights dance. It's like the Osborne spectacle of dancing lights back in 1972. And the waterfall thing, too. The waterfall thing was completely animated. That's what amazes me, is that it's not just...
people were doing that with Christmas lights at that point? Is that not a thing?
Only one company made the lights.
I just didn't know if someone had figured out a way to make them flicker by then. I would assume.
I think that the flicker technology existed for regular-sized light bulbs.
Yeah.
They just somehow adapted it to these Christmas light bulbs.
Okay.
Because it's just electronic.
See, like with that one, it doesn't look like the water's moving.
That one's not.
That one doesn't have motion.
But the other one certainly was. Well, they had to spend their time somewhere, and so they had to save.
I mean, that one doesn't even necessarily look like a fountain. It looks like one of the McDonald's Fry Kids.
So you think they had the problem, like one light goes out, they all go out?
I mean, there's a woman in the front dancer that has no light. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, that still happens now.
Yeah.
Where just the thing
The whole thing goes out, yeah.
Or Disneyland sends you costumes with bad batteries and Jacques and Gus go ablaze in the parade warehouse, you know? That may or may not have happened in 2010.
There's the Chinese
There's the dragon. I mean, it's pretty cool.
That is, yeah.
I mean, the wings look like Maleficent, right? Like, you could argue those wings are definitely Maleficent-looking wings.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
So the idea of a dragon in the parade goes back to the beginning, and then obviously when we talk about 77, they decided, all right, well, maybe it's time for a different dragon.
This is, oh, look at that.
Yeah, there's the flashing eyes and the smoke.
This is a fantastic float for 72.
This is like the best float, maybe other than the drum float, right?
I mean, this is probably the best parade float anyone's built, period, up to this point in time.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. So it makes sense that, again, when they do in 77, they're like, okay, well, the dragon's always been the most impressive part. We gotta step it up again. So this, I guess there's no one has footage of the Small World section. There was a Small World section, and so you see here it's just a still image. No one has it. And then you're gonna see the only footage on Earth, I think, that exists of the original finale. I think there's a couple of videos out there, not much. So when they decided for the 50th to do Mary Blair in Small World, it wasn't a big leap. It's kind of a celebration of the legacy of the parade.
This was a long segment.
Well, I mean, it's the same month as the other one's the music track. Here you go.
In the Small World segment, do you know if they had any characters, like, around the float, or is it just the float?
I have no idea. Here we are. We're celebrating America.
That looks cool, actually. Like fireworks coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
very
pretty
cartoony.
Good. So this isn't the bacon. The bacon did not exist yet. What's amazing, though, is like this sort of gets the fireworks, the light fireworks get redone a million times for a million different nighttime parades. I mean, obviously, Spectro paid homage with the fireworks in the finale. But it was a thing from day one of nighttime parades. So there's Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
In his Light Up America hat. I don't think he was. This might have been around. I forget what year Pooh for president was. Maybe that was 80s. There you go. There are your moving lights. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you've got the stars twinkling, and then you got the lights moving.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great effect.
Man, you had me scared until I saw this footage. Like listening to all this, like scrambling to put this together. This looks pretty sweet, and there's some real movement.
I mean, they made it. In the end, they made it.
They did it. I mean, yeah, like what's
There's definitely something to be said about the fact that Disney used to be able to pull off all of these kind of giant achievements at the last minute, whereas now they take forever to do things they've already done before.
I mean, you just read they paid electricians 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 months to finish the parade, right? Like, what's the likelihood that they'd pay anybody to work like overtime to finish anything? Anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, also, like, there is a magic to 50s, 60s, 70s Disney, right? Of a world with less red tape, right? So there were probably, less
much easier
labor,
to get stuff
less
done.
labor laws, less OSHA things to deal with, So in some cases there were things like that helped them, but also just I think the drive and the commitment, right? I think the company just believed you picked a date for something, you were assigned a project, and you had to deliver it as intended on the date you promised, right? And I think that was something everyone in the company believed in.
Now they just don't bother to promise dates.
Yeah, and then you just move them if it doesn't benefit you, you just hold them off for a couple of years. The Main Street Electrical Parade was only meant to run for the summer of 1972. That was supposed to be it. However, due to the popularity of the parade, it was extended through 1974. Then in 1975, America on Parade, a giant tribute to the bicentennial of the United States, premiered, featuring a record 50 floats and new characters with huge heads that represented the people of America.
And we're going to spare you by not showing you footage of that.
No, because this is the history of the electrical parade. This just helps us set up the story a little bit. That parade ran during the day and at night, though, through 1976. And when America on Parade debuted at both Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom, it was decided that it would be directly followed by an advanced version and permanent version of the Main Street Electrical Parade. So they decided, all right, we know, American Bicentennial was a huge thing for this country. Everyone was celebrating in some way. And so the Walt Disney Company said, well, we have to do something in the parks. And it was decided big initiative is this parade. We're going to do the biggest parade we've ever done. And it's going to run at day, at night. And that was, if you listen to Don Dorsey's interview, that was his first project. He got brought in to do the music for that, and the rest is history. But that was a really big thing for the company. That's why you might wonder at the Vault collection, why is it such a big deal to have a line of America on Parade stuff? I mean, that was, not only was that Walt Disney World's 5th anniversary at that point, it was basically a multi-year celebration. Like, that was the marketing. Everything had that logo. There were books and albums and everything.
Like, the only thing present day that you could compare that to is really the Millennium Celebration.
Yeah.
Right? Like a worldwide.
It's not a park anniversary.
It's not an anniversary.
Yeah.
It's a cultural and social event, and that's like Millennium.
Yeah. And so they decided they knew all right. So we'll run that till 74. Then we know we're running America on Parade for 2 years. But when that's done, what are we going to do? And someone's like, Florida should finally get electrical parade. We'll build 2. Of course, Bob Iger was there, and he got on stage. He goes, "We're building 2." No, he wasn't there yet. He was still giving people the weather, I think. Maybe not even.
He was
at that
delivering
point.
mail at that point, wasn't he? Still, he
Was he a mailman? I didn't even know that.
I don't know.
I don't know what he was doing. I don't know. He was a weatherman at some point. Either way. So the Main Street Electrical Parade would return in 1977 with all the floats built in 3 dimensions and powered by battery motors, and as well with a reworked score by our good friend Don Dorsey. One of the new floats was Elliot the Dragon from the 1977 film Pete's Dragon. The float was supposed to be in the parade for 1 year to promote the movie, but it was remarkable for its size and the fact that Elliot could completely disappear on command. And though the movie flopped at the box office, the float was a hit and remained from that day forward.
It's one of the most iconic floats. Like, I
think
think
it's
other
the
than the
most
drum
iconic.
float,
Yeah.
it's the most iconic float in the parade.
I think more than the drum.
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
I think about what they picked for the map. It's Elliot. Like Elliot got a plush. I don't know. Yeah, like the drum is absolutely iconic, but I think everyone thinks of the dragon, right? I don't know. I think everyone thinks of him.
Well, definitely, it's a character. More people are going to be drawn to a character than.
But it's a character,
Indian
like
Mouse.
my
It's a
favorite
character
memory
from a movie that flopped. That's
from
what's
childhood
amazing.
is like people didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So people are just like, look at the dragon. And
I don't
no one
think it
has
matters.
any
I mean, I
idea.
love Pete's
People
Dragon.
like
That was one of
dragons.
my favorite movies. But
I hate that movie with a passion.
You're one of like the 5 people who actually liked that movie,
I
probably.
love that movie.
Do you also like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks?
I do.
Yeah, I hate that too.
Escape to Witch Mountain.
I've never even seen the
Oh,
original
my
Escape
Lord.
to Witch Mountain. I saw the bad remake.
All those. Cat from Outer Space.
That one I've seen and I like. I mean, none of them are
The
Blackbeard's
computer who wore
Ghost.
tennis shoes.
Blackbeard's Ghost is the only good Disney live action movie. I stand behind that.
You don't like the black hole?
No. God, no.
It's so bad that it's
actually
good.
pretty
It's
bad.
I
amazing.
don't know that anybody likes the black hole.
Yeah.
It's so bad that it's good.
No, it's not. I like Vincent. That's about it. But we're getting. There was no black hole float, so we
No.
can't talk about the black
Maybe
hole.
there was, but you couldn't see them.
Oh man, that's where Paint the Night is right now.
In the black hole.
Oh,
The Main Street Electrical Parade again returned in '77. This time Disney built 2 at the same time, one for California, one for Florida. They had one main difference: the Magic Kingdom floats were wider. The Electrical Parade performed for the first time in Florida on June 11th, 1977. For the 77-78 version, the 2 versions of the parades had a neon-lit revolving mirror float. Jake, if you want to start playing the video, you can take the audio all the way down. I'll talk over it.
I mean, the
We do have video
The audio's
feed.
the same for every version.
Well, this person's playing the wrong. They're playing the current.
why are we
soundtrack.
playing the Dreamlights version?
Yeah, I don't know. It's on this, but so Jake, if you want to mute that, you even can. So for 77, 78, again, this will have a different. This will have a different finale than you're used to as well. Again, neon versions.
Wait. They're playing the original announcement
The Jack
before it
Wagner
was a
announcement.
vocoder.
Yeah, that's a weird mashup, but the
mixed.
footage in here is really good. I like the footage a lot. But yeah, neon versions of Disney characters revolving on sticks, projected to all sides of the route thanks to the mirrors. And then that float would stay till 1979, and that's when we got Bacon. That's when To Honor America debuted in '79. But for that first run of the new Electrical Parade, there was a whole new finale. So now you're going to see.
So this is Disney World like 77, 78?
Yeah, I mean they're mostly identical other than the width. Again, they were built side by side. Same people built them. This is Disneyland because you have
Yeah.
the D.
Yeah.
So everything, like they supposedly rebuilt everything. So supposedly this is not the same drum. I assume it is. I think it is. I don't
Probably
know.
it is.
I don't think there was a good reason to rebuild this float. I mean, maybe they rewired
They
it.
rewired it and redid
Yeah.
batteries and things, but no, I can't imagine they rebuilt it for no really good reason.
Yeah. Are we looking at people watching the parade?
Apparently.
It's funny because this footage looks not as good as
This
the
is
footage from
worse,
5-6 years
right?
before, but
Yeah.
you could already see more ambition
This-
in the floats and the movement.
This
and the
looks more like
tires and
promo
everything.
footage, I think. This is badly stored promo footage, it looks like.
It might be. I don't know. This has the best footage of the mirror finale I've seen. So I thought it was the best choice.
Oh, we're not picking on your choice, Tom.
Yeah, it's definitely promo footage because no guest was up there. Someone climbed the train station to film the Electrical Parade.
No, they were using the drone.
The drone, yeah.
Yeah.
They just shimmied up the light pole, I think.
Come on, everybody knows it was a selfie stick.
Yeah, everyone had selfie sticks in '78. So you see the banners have changed
Yeah,
drastically.
they're new.
It already feels like there's more dense color on these too. Like
More lights.
More lights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
Because
of
they figured out the batteries by then, so they could run more lights.
Yeah. But I think a lot had changed in just lighting. So
Yeah.
I just think they're
there
here.
he
There's the
is.
turtle.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think technology came quite a ways in 5 years.
Do you have
in
any
terms of lights and
Do you have any stats on how many people the turtle has hit over the years?
Hit?
Hit, yeah.
I don't know if they've ever.
Never
I don't
really
know that
guessed
anyone
on
ever
the
got hit
sidewalk.
by the turtle.
Never accidentally went a little
I-
too far and
I
ran
mean,
over some toes?
Maybe,
I've
but there
seen
weren't cell phone cameras yet, so no one
Yeah.
captured it.
no one put it on TikTok.
You can't see the people. There's like 10 fist fights happening in the crowd right now.
You just can't see it.
You can't. I'm joking. Everyone was high in the park at this point, so
look
everyone's
at
happy.
Yeah. See, I think I've seen
Everyone's
these
high
things
in the
almost
park
hit
now.
people when they spin, right? Because
Right.
they spin, so the tail end of it.
I'd be shocked if a guest never got hit on the sidewalk. by
It's
one of
totally
those.
possible. Those are super light, the spinning units, so it's possible no one was even phased by it if they got clipped. In Don's interview, he has a very charming story about the snails, since they sort of bow towards guests. When the parade debuted in Tokyo, people loved the snails, and they would bow back because that's, Japanese culture. You always have to bow back.
I miss our whirly
even if
bug.
a giant illuminated Christmas light snail bows, it's polite to bow back.
I'm looking forward to when we get to the Dreamlights part because the original Dreamlights whirly bugs were kind of weird and a little creepy.
Yeah. There is a history of slightly creepy things in Disney nighttime parades. There's a long
Spectro Men.
Yeah, the Spectro Men come to mind. The light magic pixie
All of
people.
that,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Characters in odd pajamas. All sorts of things. Even Paint the Night. Like, some people are creeped out by the car men. Some people don't like the car men. They're a little weird. And not like someone named Carmen. We're talking car men. They're men who had car parts. God, this is dark. I assume that's Cinderella. I think I saw the clock.
That looks like the clock.
Yeah.
yes.
There it is.
There
yeah.
it is.
There are so few things in the history of the parks that have crossed a 50-year milestone to begin with. Never mind, obviously, nothing in entertainment. So it is so bizarre to see footage like this of things that still exist.
Yep.
And the footage is so old. And it's just like the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is one of those things that just, it's an anomaly. And it's never before and never again, right? Nothing will ever have a lifespan like this.
No. Or be so iconic in, like, American culture.
I mean, I think there are attractions that are, but theme park entertainment, absolutely nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing else. I mean,
Well, I almost think there's a difference where they probably want to change stuff before it becomes that, and then they have
yeah, I mean,
flashback against it.
especially then, like that, it was meant to run one
Yeah.
season. Like that was the thing back then. You had things for a season or two, as a way to boost attendance. That's how entertainment worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it is. I think if you went back to the 1970s and told them like, oh, in the 2000s, the Magic Kingdom will run the same parade for over a decade every day, they'd think you were insane.
Sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, they would
Right?
think
Like,
you
it
were
ran
nuts.
twice a day in the summer.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like sometimes, like, it's funny because you said that they kept this past the season because it was popular demand.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it just feels like it's just laziness if they put
Yeah.
something in, then they don't feel like switching
I
it out
mean,
with anything.
it certainly feels
get
like
rid of it.
laziness that we don't have a nighttime parade in
Well,
Florida.
of course.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the epitome of laziness.
Yeah.
They ran this twice a day for 10 years straight, and now there's some excuse that they can't run a nighttime parade.
So this is
With
what
how much chaos it already is to manage enchantment, though, do you really think they could manage a
we'll
nighttime
talk
parade
about
along
this
with
later. This is
enchantment?
not the time for this discussion. We're not there yet. But this is the point that I think needs to be made is this is when the trend got bucked. This is when they're like, we're going to build a permanent version of this, and it's going to debut in '77, and it's just going to run all the time. That being said, it wasn't necessarily a nightly thing throughout history. I know in more recent years, if you're a younger fan, you probably are used to, when you went to Magic Kingdom, Electrical Parade was nightly. That wasn't always a thing. Like, I remember when Spectra was Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Especially after 9/11, there were periods of time where these were not and every night, and sometimes they were kind of just a summer thing.
Mm-hmm. Or just a Saturday thing a lot of times.
Yeah, or weekends, whatever the case may be. Different schedules throughout the years.
At Disneyland, it was pretty much a summer thing through '96, wasn't it?
Yeah. It ran at busier time. I think it ran in the holidays and stuff. I don't take my word on that, but I'm pretty sure it ran outside of the summer at several points in that time. We're going to talk about this. This is a unit a lot of people don't remember, probably because it went away pretty early in the life of the parade. The original Pinocchio units were this underwater version, and then before that they were actually, I guess it was Bedknobs and Broomsticks originally, because it was beautiful. I think it's labeled as Beautiful Briny in here. We'll see when we get further into the script. But it was converted at some point to Pinocchio, and then there was even a Monstro. We'll show that at some point. I think that might even be Monstro now. It's hard for me to see. It's so dark.
It is.
It looks like a whale. I can see the mouth for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely, yeah. There's the mouth. Thanks to that flash, we saw some of what was there. There are characters in that mouth. Are we at the neon finale, maybe?
Got to be close.
I think we are. It might be. It could be.
Characters on sticks.
Yeah, and then the mirrors would ensure that no matter where you were on the parade route, you could see it.
What's amazing is in '77 they had characters on sticks that rotated, but yet Incredicoaster has characters on sticks that just stand there.
Wow.
They don't do anything.
This might be Small World.
I mean, the new Electrical Parade finale has characters on sticks that don't do anything.
Yeah.
But at least
they have
up.
slight movement. They're slightly animated, but we'll, again, talk about that later. Is this Small World? It is so hard to see.
I think it is Small World.
I think it's small because I see the windmill turning. Yeah, all right. So this is the Small World section.
It looks like it's running in slow motion.
It the frame rate's bad, but again, this is the best footage I could find of this particular era of Electrical Parade, and very little footage, very little photographs exist of a lot of this. Credit to the channel we got these from, Multimedia Monorail. If you had thought earlier this week that your Friday night would be spent staring at grainy, dark images of a parade.
You were very prescient.
Not much different than most of my Fridays.
Wow. There's Elliot. There he is.
Although this time I'm around other people, so I don't feel as weird.
And the grainy dark images are a parade.
Want me to reenact? Should I reenact the Elliot noises? Whatever those noises are.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Charlie Brown adult.
So is Elliot there at this point?
Yeah, starting in 77.
Oh, okay.
So he was built because Peach Dragon came out in 77. So it was a tie-in immediately with the re-debut of the parade.
Does he breathe fire?
He breathes smoke.
Smoke.
Smoke, yeah.
So again, the natural successor to the Chinese dragon or Maleficent.
So the Chinese dragon's gone.
Yeah, so they were like, oh, well, we have a movie with a dragon coming out. Why don't we do a new, more complex dragon float of this new character? Of course, if the internet existed at this point, we would all be complaining.
Because the Chinese dragon float was
The
amazing.
movie's not even out. We'll put the dragon in there.
But the Chinese dragon float was amazing.
I mean, this is amazing.
This is amazing, but
like the IP, sometimes it's true. Sometimes you have to change, and sometimes that change is immediate, right? We already have Encanto in the parade, but Peach Dragon got in pretty damn quick.
there's other instances of movie tie-ins that happened before the movie actually premiered.
And were good and accepted, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
happens, right?
It happens
There's no.
once in a while.
Sometimes it's not, an IP isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Execution is everything. Context is king. It's got to be the right place and the right time and the right idea.
Well, I always
And
thought
either way,
that-
this whole parade is IP, so it makes sense.
Well, it's a Disney character parade, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I always thought parades were the exact right place to do stuff like
Yes,
that.
right, exactly.
Oh, here it is. Here you go. Here's your mirrored neon finale. So this is a departure. I think the reason this didn't last a long time, I think they were kind of unhappy with it. I think the neon probably clashed with the rest of the parade. It didn't really match.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is more like a paint the night kind of thing.
So this is them being like, oh, again, technology's changing. We could do a neon thing.
So they tried it.
So they tried it, right? It didn't last terribly long.
I'd love to see that in person.
I'm sure it looked great, but I think the problem was it didn't match, right?
Yeah, it was very jarring.
It
That
didn't
looks
belong.
really cool.
It looks trippy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other. There was a recent thing where they added something, and I was like, it's great, but it just.
I mean, when they added LEDs to some of the floats in Electrical
Yeah.
Parade, but not all of them, that
Yeah.
was
That was
very jarring
yeah.
too. This totally looks like it belongs in Paint the Night.
I mean, it looks like a different parade, right? It looks like we switched videos to a different parade.
Yeah.
If
I
they
think
built
you're thinking
Paint
of
the
Paint
Night
the
in the
Night because it kind
70s,
of
it would
reminds you
all
of the
be
rotating door
The
float,
doors,
the
yeah, the
monsters
things that
Inc. one.
rotate.
Yeah, a little
Yep,
bit.
absolutely.
A little bit, maybe a
Absolutely.
bit of an homage in that float then, maybe. But there you go, that was the finale of that. Okay. The following January, Disney took several Electrical Parade floats to the Orange Bowl. Jake, you can pull this video right up already. They took them to the Orange Bowl for a spectacular halftime show produced by Ron Miziker. For the halftime show, introductions and endings for the Alice in Wonderland and Peach Dragons units needed to be created, along with a grand finale for the Blue Fairy track. Don composed the Fanfare of Lights for the finale and used the opening window concept in reverse to achieve musical endings. And Bob Yanni liked the result so much that the closing fanfare was added to the actual parade in the summer of 1978. So again, this trademark thing of the parade, that end bit, didn't even exist till 78, and it only existed because of all things, this halftime show for the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, insane.
This is, for the time, this is crazy, this halftime show. What they're doing with lighting, both in the crowd and on the field, is pretty neat.
And the fact that you, it's so massive that you can see it all from a helicopter shot is incredible.
That was the Goodyear blimp, not a helicopter.
Are you sure? Can
What
you
if?
confirm it was the Goodyear blimp?
No,
See, one's burnt out. We're missing a light.
Yep.
Someone's there for no reason.
This is so weird.
Yeah.
Does this have music? I mean, this has music.
There is. Wait, Jake, you could, if you want,
Put the
you
music
could pull
up
up
a
the
little
audio
bit
on this.
first.
We'll watch it for a bit.
These are just like lighted discs.
Right, so this is more meant to be watched in a stadium, right?
Yeah.
Top down, yeah.
Yeah, this is like a.
But an entire halftime show dedicated to the Main Street Electrical Parade.
And playing the music in a stadium? Yeah.
Oh, there's the.
This is crazy. Like they're just circles of light going around and around.
Yeah.
It honestly has nothing to do with the Main Street Electrical Parade, except the music. I mean, there's obviously floats, right?
I mean, if you're doing a halftime show, you can't just have the floats come out, right? Like
no,
you gotta
spend some time.
You gotta do something cool. All right, now we got 6 of them.
What a time when theme park entertainment could be like considered a big enough deal for these halftime shows.
Right? I mean, it'd be, they did the Super Bowl.
No one else was producing entertainment on that scale, right? Like if Disneyland came in and you're like, we have a parade that lights up at night.
Yeah.
You're like picking who's gonna, are you gonna run a marching band? Or are you gonna run the Main Street Electrical Parade? I mean, it's an easy decision.
Well, I mean, Disney knew that this was also promotion and they could try out new technology if they wanted to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, think back to the whole reason the parade existed was to get people to come to Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And now they can put their show on, on showcase to everybody who's watching this in the stadium and on television.
It was a huge draw for both resorts at the time. I mean, it was a big thing. People wanted to see it. I mean still now it draws people.
Right.
I mean,
no, it's a spectacle unlike most anything else.
No.
I mean, to me, it's better than fireworks. Like, I'd rather watch an electrical parade rather than fireworks any night.
I think like fireworks made sense, right? And I love the idea of fireworks behind a castle.
Sense.
But I think they're best that like Fantasmic, World of Color, and the nighttime parades are like just the most unbelievable things they've done.
Fireworks are great, but like nighttime parades just add more to the park, I feel.
Well, fireworks you can get elsewhere.
Right.
Right?
True. And you can experience the parade from different places in the park. Really, you can experience just the sound of the parade if you want, And
back then, fireworks didn't have a soundtrack, right? Like Fantasy in the Sky was just classical music.
Right.
So this was much more...
Disney.
It was much more Disney. It was much more sight and sound together.
All right, so here are the floats. They're turning on one by one.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is just cool because, again, anyone you've ever seen the electrical parade, you've always seen it like all in a row. Right. And I love the fact that it's just spread out all over a field. Mm-hmm. Like, this is great.
Did they ship the both from Disneyland and Disney World? Because there's some duplicates in there.
What was that?
No, I don't think so.
No, this would have just been...
They've got some duplicates in there, so I figure they've shipped from both resorts for this.
Do they really have duplicates, or are they just switching cameras?
I kind of think they're just...
I thought I saw at least 2 versions of the beast. So you can see them right there.
Oh, maybe. It's hard to tell from here, but maybe...
Or maybe they just made a couple extra to fill
It looks like 2 full sets, so either they built a second set of them or they shipped it from Disneyland.
I mean, this would add a pretty big budget.
Yeah, they certainly could have brought them.
So, I mean, if you're just building the little whirly units, I mean, that's not a giant investment. I don't know that they would have sent a whole nother set across the country.
I mean, it would have taken it out of Disney World.
I mean, unless it was a season in which they don't run it anyway, I don't know.
The Orange Bowl is in January, I think. Like mid-January.
It might have been out of season, so it might have been possible to just ship them, yeah. This is wild. This is bizarre and wild.
This is probably only rivaled by
the Millennium.
No,
no,
Electrical Parade in New York City. Right, like.
I mean, I went to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the new Walt Disney motion picture Pete's Dragon, meet the stars: Elliot the Dragon and Sean Marshall.
So the actual actor, they have the actual actor appearing in this.
Is he on the float?
Wow, Elliot, look at all the people.
He sure is.
Can you see him, Elliot?
I mean, that's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah.
You too. Gee, sure not like back home in Passamaquoddy, is it? I've never seen this many people in my life. Look over there at all those lights.
Thanks to this parade, I know how to spell Passamaquoddy. One of my useless skills.
There you go.
What's the matter? Never seen a dragon before? Come on, Elliot. Show him your stuff.
I mean, again, we're talking about what's the most iconic. I mean, the kid riding that dragon, man.
Yeah.
That's.
And I mean, even though the movie flopped, you got to figure a good amount of people saw it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like.
Yeah. I think at this point, over all this time, Elliot has become more a park character than he is a movie character.
For sure.
He is not the character from Pete's Dragon. He is the dragon from the Main Street Electrical Parade, right?
Yep.
Now that's real magic.
These people came to watch football. And now they're just watching a dragon roam around the field.
Yeah.
Would you say that part of the reason why Pete's Dragon was one of the earlier choices to get a remake was because of the Main Street Electrical Parade?
No. I think they were just anything they could remake at that point. They were. I still haven't seen that remake.
It's all right.
I was so mad in that period because I hate that Maleficent movie, like with a passion. With a passion. So no, some of the other ones weren't bad. I thought Beauty and the Beast was fine. I thought Cinderella was fine.
I like Maleficent.
Oh. Of course you do.
I like
And the
Pete's
second
Dragon.
one.
And
True.
Pete's Dragon and Bedknobs and
Bedknobs and
Broomsticks. Is he gonna vanish? Is this it?
Watch this.
Watch this. I'm gonna hit the off switch. Oh wait, no, something else is happening. Oh, those are turning back on. There you go.
And this is definitely still a very new. This is still a very new concept at the time, so I'm sure this was mind-blowing to anybody, whereas now it'd be considered overly simple.
And there were all these lights in the crowd, too.
Yeah.
Like, those lights in the crowd aren't hundreds of thousands of people taking flash pictures.
No.
Those are part of the performance.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Was Don at this? You kind of figure he might have been.
I didn't talk to him about this. I don't know. I assume he was. He made music for it, so.
Right. Yeah.
I assume he was invited and went.
I think this part of this, the extended Elliot soundtrack was definitely made specifically for this.
For this.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Orange Bowl, 1978, Spectacular of Lights.
Spectacular of Lights.
I mean, it's not on Main Street and it's not a parade.
Oh, there you go. The lights are all changing color now. And then the feed died. Well, there you go.
The blimp crashed into the helicopter.
Then there was a real spectacular showing of lights. Hit the Lightyear blimp right above us. Because we're in Cars Land. Got it. Let's talk about the music. We haven't really talked. Well, actually, before we go to the music, I see we have a bunch of super chats. Let's talk about them real quick. Let's thank some people. Hey, fellas, love the show and the Main Street Electrical Parade. It's my favorite parade ever. Question for you guys. What's your favorite float or segment, past or present? Specifically, electrical parade.
I mean, I really like the drum float.
Yeah.
But one that I specifically remember is the Seven Dwarfs with the jewels and the train cars with the jewels in them.
The mine cart, yeah.
Yeah, like that sticks in my mind.
Okay.
Mine has always been the little spinning ones, the turtle and everything. That's always been my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer?
Probably just because of the closure, the Blue Fairy really stuck with me every time I've seen it now, because it's like, oh my God, this is actually a thing again. But really, I think my favorite is the It's a Small World section in Tokyo, because it reminds me both being a kid watching Spectrum Magic at the very end, where the lights would go from white to color back and forth. And they're all such well done floats, especially after the refurbishment. Yeah, the Small World in Tokyo is probably my favorite.
I remember as a kid, one of my favorites was the caterpillar with the legs.
Yeah.
Like, I just would stare at the legs. I don't know why. It was like, for that.
Please tell me we're going to show the. Are we going to show the weird caterpillar from the original Dreamlights?
Yes, we're going to show the weird caterpillar. We'll get there. For me, I think I like the turtle with the straw hat, but Elliot's probably number one. I think the dragon it's just special. It's just very special. Thank you. I think it was Chucky Chicken. I think was the name. There you go. Yeah, Chucky Chicken. Thank you. All right. That's it. We'll continue onward. Talk about the music. Baroque Hoedown was discovered by Jack Wagner on the development team. Jack Wagner often selected area music for the park. Wagner found a calliope machine that could be used to produce music. Electronic music was just coming about at the time, and a sample Jack had brought in was called Baroque Hoedown. They all thought electric music for an electrical parade was a brilliant idea. It makes sense. To turn Disney songs into electric versions, they found artist Paul Beaver. He was contracted to create all of the Disney songs. They then contacted the owners of Baroque Hoedown and licensed the rights to the song for their use exclusively. Through discussions with Bob, it was decided to build the entire parade on top of Baroque Hoedown, a technique similar to It's a Small World, where one melody is overlaid with multiple synchronized arrangements. In this plan, instead of moving the audience through the arrangements move past the audience. Armed with sketches of the floats, Jim began the puzzle-like process of fitting Disney melodies into the harmonic structure and format of Baroque Hoedown. A side note about Jack: in addition to him being responsible for finding the music, he had another distinction. He was nicknamed the voice of Disneyland. Jack's voice was not only heard over the Disneyland PA system for parades and special events, he also did a lot of voice work for attractions themselves, including instructions, emergency precautions, and safety spiels. He also did voice work for Walt Disney World, probably most known for the "Please stand clear of the doors" on the monorail, which has remained, even though the rest of the narration has changed several times over. The narrators changed several times over. Jack also had one more responsibility for the Main Street Electrical Parade. He provided the very famous announcement at both Disneyland and Disney World in a vocoded voice. We'll talk about that in a moment. Following his work on America on Parade, Jack hired Don Dorsey as his full-time audio production assistant. And when the Electrical Parade returned to Disneyland in '77, Don proposed to do something different. The original parade began with a manually triggered tape of an oscillator sweep, followed by the fade-in of a continuous parade music as the lights were turned off. But Don wanted to create a musical opening that would incorporate a fanfare that segued directly into the parade tempo. He also wanted to synchronize the lighting cue for the music to the music for dramatic effect. Because the parade would need this sonic beginning as it arrived in different areas of the park, Don invented a new way to perform automatic synchronized introductions on demand. This process was called the opening window and has been used to start Disney parades ever since. Don composed the electric fanfare, reworked the underliner and Blue Fairy track with a perkier bass line and a new melody enhancement, rearranged Alice in Wonderland and added new creature sounds, and arranged new tracks for Pete's Dragon. as well the Briny Deep or Underwater and the Disney Neon finale. Bob Yanni called the new music electro-synthomagnetic and wrote the announcement for the opening sequence. Jack also had one more responsibility, and that was to be the opening voice. So now, without any further ado, here are all the introductions, all the very memorable openings of all of the Main Street electrical parades through the years. You can turn that up, Jim.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Disneyland proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. The Main Street Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Walt Disney World proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. The Main Street Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Walt Disney proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. Tokyo Disneyland's Electrical Parade. Mesdames et messieurs, et vous les enfants, Disneyland Paris est fier de vous présenter son extraordinaire festival de magie nocturne et d'enchantement. Dans une série de milliers de lumières sur une musique électro-synthomagnétique. The Main Street Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Magic Kingdom proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. The Main Street Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Disney proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. Disney's Electrical Parade.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Tokyo Disneyland proudly presents our most spectacular pageant of nighttime dreams and fantasy in millions of sparkling lights and brilliant musical sounds. Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade, Dream Lights.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Disney proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. Disney's Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Magic Kingdom proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. The Main Street Electrical Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Disneyland proudly presents our spectacular festival pageant of nighttime magic and imagination in thousands of sparkling lights and electro-synthomagnetic musical sounds. The Main Street Electrical Parade.
The drum float that they showed for the Magic Kingdom 2010 to 2016 segment that said Disney's Electrical Parade in LEDs, but the rest of the drum float was in the traditional lights, is one of those things that was super jarring.
Yeah.
That was one of the first times I noticed the really jarring effect of the LEDs.
There are 3 openings in the history of that parade that are wrong. 2 of them are in that video, Disney's Electrical Parade, and the one is the one they've just put on now it just sounds terrible. Like someone needs to fix that opening.
That's the Disneyland one, right? The new one?
The new current, the 50th introduction is rough. It doesn't open the right way. And I'm not talking about, we're not talking about changing, ladies and gentlemen, that's fine. It just doesn't sound good. Like they didn't do a good job making it. It's just what I'm saying.
There's also a couple other ones that are missing. You're missing the Euro Disneyland one from what, 92, I think?
I just found a video that had a majority of them. I think we've heard enough.
Okay. And the other one, the other one that's missing is the new Tokyo one.
Well, that one's labeled final. People should know better than to ever label anything Electrical Parade as the final, because you know it's not true.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can sell all the light bulbs from the floats, and it's still not.
You could buy all the light-up leather jackets you want. It's not going to be true.
No.
Nah.
Before we get off the music, I want to add one more little anecdote that I think is pretty amazing. And Don talked about this in the Disneyland Paris interview, from one light bulb to another.
Yeah.
Baroque Hoedown was written by Jean-Jacques Perret and licensed to Disney, but Perret didn't know that it was licensed to Disney.
Yeah.
He had no idea because it was done through his music company, right? So he was French. So at some point, he goes to Disneyland in California, like years later.
Yeah.
He goes to Disneyland in California, and he watches the Main Street Electrical Parade, and he realizes that it's his music. And it was just like mind blown that this had been running for so long with his music, and he had no idea. Pretty amazing.
Well, I want to say, too, you mentioned at the top of the show that song was composed in '67. I thought that was a much older song.
Thinks it's you thought it was older?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea. Like, I thought it was something from ages ago or something.
I mean, it's a takeoff of much older music, but
it's the synthesizer sound
version
of it, right? So, I think
the actual composition is older.
I believe so. Yeah.
I think parts of it are.
It's essentially a parody of classical music done in electronic.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
That was the hook. Yeah. Let's talk about audio systems. What was that? Someone said something.
I was going to say, while we're still on announcements as well in the music, well, I mean, there's been a lot of people. There's Don did the Disney's Electrical Parade announcements. Bill Rogers did the Disney World in '99.
Yeah.
Melissa Atwell did ours in '01, I think. No one knows that's a woman, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's been a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jack's the original, and then several people have done it since.
Yeah.
Disney's
Electrical Parade.
I hate that one. That one, I don't know. The current one's pretty bad. It's between that and Disney's for the worst one.
Yep.
I don't know. I still think they should have called it the Sunshine Plaza Electrical Parade, or the Performance Corridor Electrical Parade,
yeah.
or the Paradise Pier Electrical Parade. One of those. We had the Paradise Pier Hotel, the Paradise Pier Electrical Parade, all of it. So the first show parade was the Christmas parade at Disney World, with big-name performers performing twice a day at the parks. It was decided that other Disney entertainment should rival that. There was an effort to make a parade show for guests, or parade a show for guests, in fact, actually a reason for them to visit. This is where the idea for a constant envelope of sound came from. Speakers were placed along the parade route to play an underliner, and speakers on floats would play music for that float. The route was broken into zones for the first time. Using radio-activated triggers for when each entered a zone, the audience would hear float-specific music through Disneyland audio system, and each zone was between 70 and 100 feet long, and the zone system meant that every person watching the parade would experience the same show no matter where they were on the parade route. So this is, again, like this changed the entire game. This changed everything. And I say it in the Don interview, like, not only is that the 77 version of Electro Parade the one that establishes everything, for the most part, that we know and love about it, it also is the birth of the modern Disney parade, which of course has been a staple at every single Disney resort around the world now for, almost 50 years. So, not that there weren't parades before, but the parades as you know them today were born in 77. We have a super chat. What do we got? Did you ever get your missing McNuggets from McDonald's?
I did not.
When did you not get McNuggets?
A couple months ago.
Oh, this seems like an appropriate time to talk about them. All right, move on.
They give us money, we have to talk about it.
We do. That's how we pay to keep our lights on, so we don't glow away. Over the ensuing years, the park saw many new musical units come and go. Now, get ready, folks, we're going to get weird now. This is my favorite part. Most arranged and performed by Don. For 4 seasons, beginning in 1980, there were 2 ocean-themed Pinocchio floats added, an undersea paradise, and Monstro the Whale. We have that video clip, I believe, Jake. I think we've seen a little bit of this, but I think this is a much clearer video of it. What's funny is I hadn't really looked back at this before, and this is clearly the inspiration for the Little Mermaid unit that eventually goes in Spectra, which is, I love the fact that people think it's just a thing now, but really throughout the whole history of the parks, people have been paying homage to the things that came before. A good idea never goes away, right? And so they saw this and were like, oh, if we're going to do Little Mermaid, we could kind of just, like, this did it right. We'll do it with new technology, but this is a good jumping off point. Obviously not color-wise, this video isn't great, but you're getting a better look at the float than we certainly did the other time. And again, this began as a beautiful briny tie-in to bed knobs and broomsticks originally, and then it was redone for Pinocchio.
But those bubbles and the bubbles hitting the surface of the water is absolutely something you see in the Little Mermaid sequence too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the shipwreck and Monstro.
No characters on Monstro this time.
I don't know if it looked like a character could be there. I don't know. Maybe at some point Geppetto would have made sense. I don't know if he was on there at some point or not. For Disneyland's 25th anniversary, they had a new unit in the 1980 season. We have video of that as well. Well, we have a photo, I guess. There it is. It's pretty cool.
That's
I like that
cool.
one.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. And there's some audio. Jake, if you turn that up a little bit, there was special audio for this float. All right, that's good.
That only ran for a year?
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah, just for
float.
Disneyland's 25th.
That's a great float.
I mean, that's tradition, though, which still continues today. Water
Absolutely.
pageant
Yeah.
having its 50th anniversary tag, right?
Yep.
What's old is new again. In the summer of 1983 and 84, Disneyland pulled the plug on the parade temporarily to make way for the Flights of Fantasy parade. And in 1986, a 15th anniversary float was added to the Magic Kingdom Main Street Electrical Parade. The Electrical Parade would complete its run at Walt Disney World on September 14th, 1991, and then was shipped to Euro Disney. Some other floats worth mentioning, a Mickey Mouse 60th float was added in 88, and Disneyland had a 35th anniversary float in 1990. If we have video of that? I don't know if I pulled the video of that one. Oh, we do, Jake. If you skip ahead a little bit, I do have a cue for the 35th float. So we'll pull that up. It's a very short clip in a longer video. Give Jake a minute. There we go. He's got it queued up already. There it is. There's the 35th logo.
Yeah. That's great, too.
Yeah.
What a great float.
It's funny, it does look a little bit 90s, too.
Yeah.
It has
Again, it almost looks like it doesn't fit in, right? Because it's built later, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've never even done something like that either, which you would expect from here, honestly.
No, but you guys, Dreamlights has been updated like every 5 years consistently, so I'd take that. It's a good deal.
I don't know. How cool would it have been to like watch Dreamlights and hear like an electrical version of Brand New Day as part of the finale?
Cool, yeah. See, but you guys make up for it. Instead, you had your anniversary theme as a chime at the subway station. How crazy is that? Could you imagine, like, Disney Park in the U.S., like, you arrive on mass transit, you're not even, like, at the place yet, and you just hear, like, the music from the park playing, like, on the platform. I mean, come on. It's pretty cool.
You mean instead of Buddy Dyer?
Yeah. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Wow. What is it normally? It's Zippity Doodah in Small World normally, and they didn't do it for the TDS 20th, sadly.
No, but for the other anniversaries, they've done it. Some quick notes about the electrical parade at Disneyland. It was sponsored by Energizer from 72 to 85, very fittingly. And then General Electric from 85 to 96. Again, a rundown of some floats through time. Blue Fairy, Casey Jr., Alice in Wonderland, the Mushroom with the Butterfly and Ladybug, the Snails, the Mushroom with Alice and the Cheshire Cat, Fireflies, the Mushroom with the Caterpillar, the Turtles, the Centipede, the Cinderella units, including the Pumpkin Coach, the Ballroom, Cinderella's Ball with Prince Charming and the Stepsisters, the Clock Tower. Peter Pan was introduced in 1985. That does not go back to the 70s. It's the pirate ship with Captain Hook and Smee's boat. Dumbo Circus, including the Hippo and King Leonidas Calliope. King Leonidas, by the way, not a Dumbo character. Four-ring circus with Dumbo and Clown. The bear balancing on barrels.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which is also, isn't the bear referenced in the They Might Be Giants, or not They Might Be Giants? Who covered, someone did a cover of Electrical Parade where they say it, they made up like some fake lyrics, and it's like a bear with a lollipop stuck on its face. Is that the They Might Be Giants one?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, they mentioned, they referenced the bear.
Yeah.
Elephant Bathing. Then there was the Briny Deep was 77 to 79, and then it was Pinocchio Underwater from 79 to 84. 85 also saw the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs units, which are in there today. That's Dopey's Mine Train and the Dwarf Mine. Pinocchio on Pleasure Island replaced Pinocchio Underwater in 85. So 85 was kind of a redo of Electrical Parade. That's when you got Peter Pan, Snow White, and the Pinocchio units. And another, my personal favorite, we'll talk about in a few moments. They're also, so that was the Pinocchio in 85 was the Funhouse face and the Pleasure Island second unit, which now is no longer.
And 85 makes sense too, because that's when they built it for here. So they were already building a third one and revisiting it. They might as well go back and fix some stuff.
But I tell you what else they were doing in 1985. They were building a float for Return to Oz.
That's insane.
Pull up the beautiful image. There it is. It's
wow.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. I think we'll play the music shortly as well. According to those who saw it, it was a large and beautiful float. The characters consisted of a live-action Dorothy who carried a fake chicken, costume versions of the Scarecrow and the Lion, and a life-size marionette of the Tin Woodman, along with TikTok, not the app, it was a character, and the Emerald City Dancers. The float was set to look like the throne room of the Emerald City. It was completely covered in mirrors. It was these mirrors that led to the float's destruction. Late in the summer, Return to Oz caught fire. It was never replaced. It was only visible that summer. So there's no video of this running. There's several photos. And then, of course, there's a magnificent soundtrack. Jake, can we hear that? We'll get into it in a second. Get to the good part. Not yet. There we go. It's a bop.
As someone who's Gen Z, please never say that again, ever.
Can't hear you over this wonderful music. All right, Jake, I think the people heard enough. If you haven't heard enough, though, it's still going. Jake was getting too into it. He couldn't stop it. If you haven't heard enough of it, if you ride Storybook Land canal boats at Disneyland Paris, it plays there because they have it's actually the finale of the attraction. There is a Return to Oz scene, and I asked Jim Scholl when we did the 30th interview, I was like, why did you pick the Electrical Parade version of the Return to Oz music? He goes, it was upbeat and fun. It's like, yep, sure is. First time I went to Paris, I did not know that was there, and I lost it. That is my favorite weird Disney parks thing on earth, is that not only did that make it into that because they wanted to end on an American fairy tale, which Wizard of Oz is kind of the closest thing to an American fairy tale of fame. So they're like, well, we own Return to Oz, so do that. And then Jim had to pick a song. Pick that. Why not? It's wonderful. It only got to run for a summer, but the music lives on now since the mid-'90s. It's been a part of Disneyland Paris. Love that. We got a super chat. I hope it's about Return to Oz. This parade blew my mind as a young child visiting Disneyland in the 70s and forever cemented my love of Christmas lights in Disneyland. Thank you for doing this program. Well, thank you for watching. I think it's Vaughn. Yeah, thank you for watching, Vaughn. We appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about To Honor America. That was introduced in 1979. They introduced that finale. The neon finale ran in 77 and 78. And then another weird one in 1980, The Fox and the Hound got a float. It was a car.
Nice.
It was a big, oversized car.
That was it.
It's a car, yeah. That's it.
Wow.
Immediately screams Fox and Hound.
Let's go down to Disneyland, kids. I heard there's a car. We gotta go see it.
I mean, there's a whole land about cars
wow. I mean, it's no Return to Oz.
No.
Someone asked what our favorite float ever is. I think mine is actually Return to Oz. It's actually my favorite. All right, let's talk about Tokyo, so Spencer feels of use. You can pull up, if you want to play the video with no audio, Jake, you can, for the original Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade, which couldn't be the Main Street Electrical Parade because there's no Main Street. There's World Bazaar.
There's the World Bazaar Electrical Parade.
And it doesn't even go into World Bazaar. It goes around the hub, the giant mega hub, because they knew people there would love parades.
Giant Mega Hub Electrical Parade.
All right, that would have been a great name, too.
Nah.
So in 85,
honestly, knowing how Japan names things, I can see that happening.
Yeah. Super Mega Electrical Parade Fun Time. Kawaii.
The Blue Fairy's blue now.
Yeah.
The Blue Fairy is blue.
Tokyo finally figured out how to get blue lights.
Oh, boy. In 85, Disney was finally able to bring the show to Tokyo, and while almost identical to Disneyland, it did have its share of differences, most notably a cleaner appearance. It was built several years later, as well as the added Swan Lake unit and the absence of Stars and Stripes finales. The park was the first constructed outside of the U.S. Don actually texted me earlier. We found out why the swans are in this. I'm going to pull up Swan. He messaged someone and found out the reason for the swans in Japan. The interest was all around the connection to the swans that swim in the moat at the Imperial Palace. Bob and Ken had been told about how they were treasured by the Japanese, and tell me if I'm butchering this, Spencer, the Sakai-san? I don't know.
You're definitely, I don't even know what you're trying to say.
Sakai, Sakai-san?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Wanted the cultural element added to the parade.
Sakai, who is that? Must be like
they built the
up
floats at the Toho Art Studio.
So they built those floats
right, that's,
in Japan.
Actually, that is where almost all floats for all parades at Tokyo Disneyland are constructed. They were constructed at the Toho Studio in suburban Tokyo.
Okay.
A lot of USJ's parades have been built there too, actually.
This is a pretty significant difference too. Those horses, it's pretty different. Actually, what's going on with the flag on Casey Jr. is pretty different too. So I guess they did. They took the opportunity to fix up a couple of things for sure. I mean, it looks, you know, even though it's only been a couple of years, but it looks improved for sure.
Oh, the spirally thingy too. That's that's not in the U.S. That's only there.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at all the things.
This was, I guess, this is before they put it.
These guys are not in any U.S. version. Yeah. The toy.
I guess
soldiers.
they didn't put the sponsor on the drum because Unisys has sponsored it from the beginning. So.
Oh, this is cool that I didn't know that the toy soldiers were in Electrical Parade. This is fantastic.
Yeah. I think they made it to the first version of Dreamlights too. I'd have to check again.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you I've worn one of those costumes. They're already heavy. The fact that they added battery packs to that, those people had to be dying. That costume is so heavy and uncomfortable.
There's a new thing. That's a new Alice in Wonderland thing right there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some pretty significant differences now that we're going to end up watching this because now I'm curious as to what else was different.
Well, and the footage is really nice on this one, so we can really see everything clearly.
Yeah.
Well, they had access to superior Asian electronics.
If you had asked me, I have the pro shot from the Blu-ray that I could have sent you.
The less I have to talk to you, the better. No, that would have been good to know. It's been a crazy week. I'm amazed that we pulled this off. I'm amazed that we have a script and that this is happening.
You say that the less you see of me, the better, and I'm about to chaperone you around Japan for 2 weeks.
You know, we all make sacrifices to get what we want. Yeah, these look great. I mean, clearly a step up for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. For every iteration, you just see more and more lights, more movement.
I mean, some of it is definitely video quality, but I mean, absolutely, it's not all that. Like, there definitely is a quality improvement also in the floats. It's undeniable.
And I think part of it is, you know, this time in Japan, you know, this was the bubble era. There were lights everywhere, so they definitely had to step it up even more than it would have been in the U.S. to make it
That's true. These people
for them.
live in a city covered in lights, right?
Yeah, especially in the 80s, it was a much bigger deal at the time. So that's why a lot of these are much more active, I think.
What did they do to the lightning bug? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yellow.
Is that the lightning bug?
Well,
or
that
Arthur?
explains that explains Dreamlights. Oh my God.
Weird Arthur tie-in in this version.
And there's a third mushroom, it looks like.
They must have got a good deal on yellow lights, because, man, everything.
Yeah, there's
yellow.
a lot of yellow. Yeah, that's a solid color.
The guy who was dipping the lights went a little too crazy.
Light dipping, light sniffing.
I'm assuming they didn't have to hand dip all the white lights.
No, I think by this point, people, I think colored lights were in abundance.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Knowing Disney, I'm sure there were custom colors and stuff. I'm sure they were that meticulous. Or someone's like, no, this green that you sell isn't good enough. We need this shade of green for the turtle. I am almost positive someone had a conversation like that. That just seems like a thing that would happen. Because I know with Spectro they did that. That's one of the things they said about Spectro was there was all sort of custom light colors and things.
With ours, I would have to double check, but I don't think we ever changed our floats except for at the very end when we got the Sayonara float.
There was a farewell float?
When the parade was making way for Fantalusion in '95, they built a Sayonara Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade float that lasted about 6 months, I think.
What did it look like?
There's a pin.
I'll send Jake a picture.
There's a pin, I think, of that float.
I don't know. I didn't find that. I don't have any notes. I have notes of when it went away. I don't have any notes about this float. There's your caterpillar.
So it looked like a flat Mickey head on a fountain of lights, kind of like the Blue Fairy, with Sayonara in pink and then Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade in yellow. I'll send Jake the picture.
Okay.
That I think is actually called the centipede float and not the caterpillar
Okay.
float. I was wrong.
There you go.
I referred to it incorrectly.
Here's another Arthur.
Oh, there's the pin.
It is a lot of yellow. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was a thing they could only get certain color lights. I don't know.
So was this whole parade built in Japan then? Or was it built in California?
Every parade since I think '83 has been built by the Toho studio in suburban Tokyo.
Okay, so this was built in Japan.
There they are.
Yeah.
The yellow swans.
Wow.
The swans. Which
They might
began
have
a
been
rich
white,
tradition of giant swan floats in Tokyo.
I wish that was still around. That float was cool.
What else? Was that Jubilation that had a giant swan again?
Yes, that was part of Jubilation that had the swan. And I think there was another giant bird in Happiness is Here. I'd have to look.
There was. Mm-hmm.
But this was such a significant thing.
I like that
they
the swan
sent
can
this
give
to
guests
Paris.
dirty looks. Turn swan. It's like, I'm judging you.
Looks down his nose at everybody.
That's a lot of plush you've brought with you to the park.
Have you spent enough on Duffy today?
It wasn't a thing yet. Simpler time when everyone just carried around a Fab Five character.
I was looking at someone on Twitter today that had like a desk full of Duffy stuff, and it was like, this is what every office woman's desk in the TDR portfolio building in Glendale looks like. Just covered in Duffy stuff.
Also, my desk here at WWNT Celebration. It's all gelatoni.
I thank God every day that you don't make me go to those releases.
I'm a simple man. He could wear the clothes he was born with.
Saves me from fighting with crazy resellers and angry. Never mind. That's a pointed comment I'm not going to make.
All right. There's 4 mice.
Yeah, the mice.
So obviously there's Jacques and Gus. Who are the other 2?
Friends.
Yeah.
Just random mice friends. It's not Susie and Perla. They're in the like male outfits. There's just bonus mice.
Yep.
It looks better to have 4 than to have 2, I think.
It's the most Tokyo
No, seriously.
Disney thing
I think that's the line of think.
Looks better.
I genuinely think that's what the thought process was, is that it's better to have 4
Sure
of them.
might have been. I mean, they never skimp on number of performers. It's not a thing you do at Tokyo Disneyland.
Except right now.
All right. It's different. The world hadn't almost ended here.
So I'm curious, does anyone know, like, I don't even know the answer to this question. Why does the opening announcement for this one say Walt Disney Presents?
I think because they had to change it already because of Main Street. So I think they were just like, you know what? You can't say Tokyo Disneyland twice. Tokyo Disneyland Presents Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I think it was just like, let's put Disney or Walt Disney.
It wouldn't make sense if they did like Oriental Land Company presents Tokyo
Unisys presents
NTT Docomo.
Actually, I genuinely can hear them saying Unisys Presents. Or what is it now, By Proggy or something?
Docomo.
Speaking as someone who had Docomo.
This parade is awfully yellow.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of white light.
and
It's got to be a
old
thing
video.
with the production. It's got to be something that just was easier to get yellow or something. I don't think it's the video doing it necessarily.
No, because all the other colors are pretty high fidelity.
Yeah.
Well, look at the castle. The castle's kind of yellowed out too. They lit it in white back in
maybe.
the day.
Maybe it is white and we're just seeing yellow. Yeah, that might be a thing. Yeah, I mean, they're looking more white now that they got closer.
Our long Tokyo Disneyland parade interruptions.
There's the pirate ship. I guess they figured since they were going to do it for Tokyo, they'd add it at Disneyland and Disney World. I guess Disneyland, maybe we didn't add it. I'm not entirely sure.
I'd have to look.
Yeah, I don't know. Did we make those 85 editions? Or were we already being cheap? No, we were still pretty good back then.
Let's see here.
Well, this was super interesting, and now it's as the parade has continued, it's gotten more similar.
Yeah, I think it's the same until Small World from here. Maybe a couple of minor changes.
How many floats are we from Small World?
Small World is in the same place To Honor America was.
All right, Jake, let's jump forward a little bit for the sake of time. This is Dumbo Circus.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the one that we never put in with Dreamlights. They never gave us Dumbo when they redid it. All these other units got redone, but not Dumbo.
What is going on with his hair?
Oh, this was something that was different. Elliot, I think, had a slightly different face. Kind of like
He's
the
got a
Woolly
mop
Bugs.
top going on, too. Yeah,
the eyes
seems
were
a bit
definitely different.
yeah.
They made it more Japanese looking ish, like how the art style would be.
Yeah. Whoa, those eyes. Oh my God. You've
They're
looked into the
spotlights, I
eyes of
think.
Elliot. Your next stop is the gates of doom. Just a boy and his giant beast.
All right, here comes Small World.
They really like that flower. Keep going back to that. I've never seen them. I guess it's supposed to be a water wheel on a building. Or is it a clock? I don't even know what it's supposed to be of those two things. I mean, there's Leaning Tower. of
I think it's
Pisa.
supposed to be a clock.
Oh, there's some creepy kids spinning. Oh, boy.
We've always liked Small World here.
I do, too. I have never liked the idea of the Small World dolls outside of the building. They don't... Like, it's the same problem I have with them on the new finale. Like, I love the imagery, right? Like, the Mary Blair Small World style and made of Christmas lights looks fantastic. Those dolls with just nighttime lighting on them outside do not work. They never have, and they never will. Like, the worst part of that new finale are the dolls. Like, they just don't look great. They don't, there's something about them in night lighting that's really discomforting.
I'm being told that Disney World never got the Peter Pan ship until '99 when Disneyland's version came over.
We took the Disneyland one, yeah. All right, that makes sense.
And supposedly this Small World float was also at Walt Disney World. It was the same version up until 91.
I was pretty young. I don't remember that at all. All right, well, that's Tokyo. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. You've already alluded to it. So the electrical parade went away. We said this in September of 91 and was replaced at Walt Disney World with Spectro Magic. We're not going to go in depth on Spectro Magic because that's a different Back to the Future. And we're going to spend a whole lot of time on that at a later point. But that, yeah, so electrical parade ended September of 91 in Florida. We brought in Spectro Magic as the replacement. Euro Disney, of course, if you want to pull up, not that this video is wildly different, you could play a few seconds of it though. The Euro Disneyland or Disneyland Paris version of the Electrical Parade premiered on park's opening day, April 12th, 1992, and ran until March 23rd, 2003. Some cool 90s footage of Main Street though. Main Street Motors that actually sold cars at that time. The version was shipped from Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, so this is where it ended up. And like the Tokyo version was nearly identical, except omitting to honor America. Newly added, but soon after removed, was the It's a Small World finale. I guess it was also Christmas. Jake, if we could jump to near the end to see the Small World ending, maybe.
Are you going to talk about the loss of some containers on the bottom of the ocean thing?
You mean Hong Kong?
Is that coming up?
Yeah, eventually,
Okay.
yeah. They didn't lose them. They chose not to do it. And then I think they just dumped them. There's different stories. Some people I spoke to said they were landfilled. Some people say they just dumped them in the ocean. It's not clear which is true.
So what was that?
Is there anything after Elliot or no? Oh, so this is right at, that's how short-lived it was, I guess, that they just ended on Elliot for a while. What was before Elliot?
Yeah, what was that we were looking at? Oh,
Circus.
Dumbo. Okay.
So if that Small World finale was a thing, it's not even in this. All right. So meanwhile, the audiences in Japan had become accustomed to the electrical parade and wanted something in the same vein as Spectro Magic, which is what they received in '95. Following the conclusion of the electrical parade's 10-year run, at the time the longest-running show in Tokyo Disneyland's history, a new nighttime parade was in development with the combined strength of the team behind Spectro Magic, as well as Disneyland Park's brand-new river-based nighttime spectacular, Fantasmic. Tokyo Disneyland Electric Parade again had its final performance on June 21st of '95, and 1 month later, on July 28th, Disney's Fantalusion officially debuted. Fantalusion was exactly what you expect coming from the two creative teams behind Spectro Magic and Fantasmic. It featured 31 brand new floats split into 3 acts. The Enchanted Fairy Garden was a nod to what had come before in Spectro Magic. The evil villains, a combination of the Chernabog unit from Spectro Magic and, of course, the villainous segment from Fantasmic in many ways. And the happy ending, which was kind of its own thing. We're not going to talk about Fantalusion in depth either, because it's not an electrical parade. It's a different thing. So I know Spencer's all sad.
We do. No. I got Jake a picture of the Sayonara float from.
Oh yeah, let's show that
Tokyo
at least,
Disneyland
for
Electric
sure.
Parade.
That is weird.
It was a really low to the ground float. It was a quick
It's
job.
Like
But I
it's
think
like a
it was
Mickey
cute.
ear hat.
Yep.
It's Sayonara.
Yeah, it's cute.
All right. That's good enough for 6 months. So speaking of electrical parade farewells, let's talk about another one. There'll be 40 of them to go. Almost immediately after Fantalusion debuted in Tokyo, a similar team began working on a brand new nighttime parade for Disneyland in Anaheim, but fans weren't necessarily thrilled about it. In the almost 25 years of the electrical parade, it had become a classic, something guests couldn't see a day in the park not including. So if Disney really was coming up with a long-term replacement, it was going to need to be something incredible. It was announced soon after Fantalusion's debut in '95 that '96 would hold the farewell season of the Main Street Electrical Parade, with its final performance scheduled for October 15th. However, due to demand and because money, The date was pushed back a month and 10 days to November 25th. In any event, the big final day came, and the Main Street Electrical Parade at Disneyland ran for the last time ever at Disneyland.
Aw. Don't worry.
In air
Don't worry,
quotes.
it wasn't the last. Okay. By then, the parade's replacement had been announced as well, and originally conceived as a tie-in to the 1998 New Tomorrowland project, which would be known as Light Keepers, following Disney's hiring of cost-conscious Paul Pressler. The concept was canceled, and the parade instead was redeveloped to be about Disney's own IP, and specifically Tinkerbell and her pixie friends. And this was long before those movies existed, with Tinkerbell living in Pixie Hollow. The show was originally called Tinkerbell's Night Magic before becoming Tinkerbell's Light Magic before becoming Light Magic. In the spring of '97, Light Magic was to debut as the final evolution of the show concept Disney had been perfecting over 6 years with Spectro Magic and Fantalusion.
Except it wasn't.
We'll get there.
It was nothing like either of those.
It's not an evolution of the show concept.
It's a de-evolution. To make room for the changes, updates, and overhauls came to Disneyland's parade route. On the Small World end, new lighting, towers, and show elements were installed, and similar elements were installed on Main Street disguised into the building facades. And over the following 8 months, work moved along backstage as well, getting together all the parade floats, costumes, and elements that the show would require. Billed as a street-tacular, the show required the construction of 4 brand new 80-foot-long hybrid stage parade floats. However, this brand new show was going to be a departure from the traditional strung Christmas light style float designs that had appeared up to that point. Light Magic would instead use 2,500. That can't be right.
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
Yep. Yes,
2,500 miles of fiber optic cable?
Yep.
Holy Moses.
Yep.
1,500 strobe lights, and just for good measure, 132 robotic stage lights, as well as 85 air cannons used for smoke effects, as well as the confetti finale. A separate ticketed annual pass holder preview of the event had already been scheduled and sold for May 13th, 1997, but due to the development being woefully behind, the preview was originally billed as the world premiere of Light Magic, ended up being the first dress rehearsal. And you know that the first dress rehearsal is something the public shouldn't see. True to the dress rehearsal nature, things went wrong. Very wrong. Lighting equipment failed, the sound system crashed and left the majority of the performance in silence, and overall the fans were left angry and disappointed, and eventually Disney had to issue no questions asked refunds due to the poor reception. As Disney frantically tried to ready the show for the May 23rd premiere, word of mouth was spreading faster than Disney could chase it as pass holders blasted the new experiences as the single worst Disney parade of all time. And that's saying something. Mickey Mania, of course, had just happened. But alas, May 23rd came, and as reception was, well, better than it had been 10 days prior. It was hardly the overwhelming success Disney was banking on. The idea of Pixies bringing the park to life with Light Magic just didn't really mesh with audiences the same way the simple nature of Spectro Magic had, or even the literal non-existent theme that came with the Electrical Parade. Due to scheduling delays, the creative team was forced to cut crucial pre-show elements that were meant to explain the show. But to be frank, if you need to put in a pre-show to explain the show you're going to see, you're probably too far down the wrong path already.
Just thinking that.
Now, this isn't really an electrical parade, so we should stop talking about it at this point.
I'm not even going to describe like scene by scene, but it kind of sets up the future, right? Like the building of the Small World Mall and the new lighting and all of that kind of sets the future. And I mean, this is the replacement of the Electrical Parade at Disneyland. So I'll skip some.
I will say, for how terrible the production value is of Light Magic, the music is incredible. I love that soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's because they weren't behind schedule on the music.
Yeah. And I thought so the interesting thing was it was one of the first instances of like fan service, right? Where they were like, well, we got rid of the Electrical Parade. You got to do something in this to reference it. And so towards the finale, there is a orchestral version of Baroque Hoedown because they felt like, well, we got to reference it in some way. We replaced it. For some people, seeing as it was really bad, people saw that as like, a cigarette in the wound. So they put it out in the wound. Yeah. So didn't go well. Disney backpedaled, and following the 97 summer run with its final Labor Day performance, Disney stated it would go on a 2-year hiatus while they changed it. Spoiler alert, it never came back. That was it. Light magic did bring one lasting element for decades to come, and that was the new lighting system at Disneyland. And then, of course, in 2005, when they were rebuilding facades at Disneyland for the 50th, the other thing that happened was they had to rip out all the fiber optics from the Main Street buildings. So a lot of residual effects that took place. The other thing that was interesting was because Disneyland no longer had nighttime parades, because they had the lighting system installed, they were able to run daytime parades as nighttime parades. So Mulan and Hercules and a number of other things for years to come had an afternoon run and an evening run because they could do it, which was something no other Disney park was doing, was running daytime parades as nighttime parades. So saved them some money, and that's what Paul Pressler and Cynthia Harris liked. That was their favorite thing, money. The other interesting thing was this actually also inspired them when they were designing Tapestry of Nations at Epcot that it could be both. So, of course, that debuted in 1999 and again ran daylight and nighttime. We have some video of light magic. We're going to skip that for now. For the sake of time, we're not going to even bother. There's a super chat, though. Let's read what it is. Maybe it's about light magic. Appreciate the mellow stream after last night. Very sweet, very kind. Enjoying the trip back to the future. Thank you, Malibu Disney. Appreciate it. So the first time that some of the...
Tom, can I ask a question?
No, go ahead.
So when they stopped it and thought it was gone and they were putting in light magic, were we going to get to where those floats went? Is that coming up?
They went into the garbage.
Oh, okay.
The light magic float?
No. The Main Street.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. So we talked about the Orange Bowl and how that was one of the first times you could see the electrical parade outside of a Disney park. The first time actually was 1977 at the New York City premiere of Disney's Pete's Dragon. They actually ran it in New York as the movie was premiering at Radio City Music Hall. Ron Miziker pitched that and it happened, but then it happened again. It happened
running a
20
parade
years
at
later.
night in New York City in 1977. People thought that was a good idea.
Wow. I mean, it was good because you could see yourself getting pickpocketed because it was so bright. You could actually see who was mugging you. Anyway.
They actually used the dragon's eyes, those spotlights, to illuminate the dark alleys.
If you want a good idea of what New York was like in 1977, I highly suggest the ESPN series The Bronx is Burning. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
Fantastic series.
Wasn't that the year that Yankee Stadium caught on fire or something?
Maybe. Oh, that was the year they remodeled Yankee Stadium. Maybe, I don't know.
The one about the Mets does a good job of setting that up too. The one about the '86 Mets.
I've never seen that one. I didn't know
that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Right. We often call the Mets the light magic of New York baseball teams. Anyway.
Wow.
Now all the Mets fans are angry at me. All three of them. So June 14th of 97, for the opening of the New Amsterdam Theater and the premiere of Hercules, they had the Hercules Electrical Parade, and you thought Disney's Electrical Parade was a bad name. Again, Disney arranged for the lights to be turned off on about 8 blocks of Broadway up to the theater. All the businesses complied with the exception of the Warner Brothers store at the crossroads of 42nd Street and Broadway, as they were a big competitor of Disney at the time. How'd that work out for them? I mean, we shouldn't say anything. The Disney store is also gone now, so they're all gone. I'm Michael Eisner. Here we are at the world premiere. There were exclusive floats even built just for a one-time performance.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
So why weren't those sent to Walt Disney World? I mean,
they were too big.
Hercules was still new in '99.
They were way too big. They were built for New York streets. They were giant.
Oh.
Yeah. This was a big deal because the New Amsterdam opening was, we were opening a Broadway theater, and on top of that, they're premiering Hercules. I didn't even realize that I didn't realize that that was what it was happening for. We went to see it, but I didn't know. I thought it was just for Hercules. I didn't even know. Because Lion King didn't debut until '98.
Yeah, but New Amsterdam Theater was a big deal for Disney.
Oh yeah, that was like, we're gonna do a Broadway musical. I don't even know what was running there at the time, if anything even was, or they just aired they premiered Hercules in the theater at that point.
So you didn't
was it Beauty and the Beast? Because that came first, didn't it?
I don't think that was at the New Amsterdam. That was at a different theater, I thought, Beauty and the Beast.
Maybe.
I thought they bought the New Amsterdam with the idea
Disney,
of, like, we're going to do another musical. Because Beauty and the Beast still ran when Lion King debuted.
And it also is significant because Disney played such a big part in revitalizing Times Square in the 90s that this culmination with opening the New Amsterdam and the Electrical Parade.
You know what would have been great?
Big deal.
Disney Quest.
We got ESPN Zone.
And a DVC.
We had ESPN
and a DVC
Zone.
Hotel
Yeah, and all the things that New York was supposed to get. Yeah. So, Nick was asking what happened to the Disneyland Electrical Parade. I'll answer that. It came here. We decided that, oh, hey, they made a lot of money with that farewell in 96. Could we do that? And we were like, yeah. And so we decided as part of the Millennium Celebration, it started a little early. We debuted it on May 28, 1999, minus Pinocchio and Snow White floats that were instead sent to Paris in 97. With much fanfare and huge crowds, the Electrical Parade would eventually glow away forever on April 1st, 2001. The most fitting April Fool's Day joke of all time. Yeah. The joke wouldn't be revealed for years. They were really committed to it. The Electrical Parade that originally ran at the Magic Kingdom was still in Paris at that time, but was marked for shipment to Hong Kong when that park would be completed. Meanwhile, the Disneyland version that had just performed at Disney World was shipped to California Adventure to bolster that park during its awful opening summer. Debuted there on July 3rd, 2001. I think we have video if you want to put this on in the background, Jake. So
wasn't it originally supposed to go back to Disneyland at first? And then they were like, never mind, send it to California Adventure.
That's the rumor. I don't know. It's a great question.
So this is where we got to keep all this straight, right? So
Disney
World sent it to
the Florida
Paris.
Parade went to Paris.
Yep.
The Disneyland Parade went to Magic Kingdom, which then went back to California, but went to Disney's California Adventure.
Yep.
The Paris Parade went to Hong Kong, where it was either put into a landfill or the ocean. The Tokyo Parade was lovingly burned, I assume, in some sort of traditional ceremony. I don't know.
It was put on swan boats and sent out into the lake.
So I've never actually been able to get a straight answer as to whether any parts of the parade were reused for Dreamlights. I don't think so.
I assume chassis and motors and things they didn't just throw out, but maybe they did.
Yeah, I mean, they use the same chassis for seasonals and just take the top parts off.
Yeah, so I assume they at least took parts. I mean, it'd be dumb not to if everything was in good shape, which knowing Tokyo, it was meticulously, oh boy, look at this thing. A California classic.
California classic.
We're really committed to this park's theme.
I remember this. Yep.
Years later, we'd give up on this park's theme because Spider-Man.
Before the parade, they used to play like this, kind of like what they do now with Disneyland, where it was like, in 1977, a California classic was born, or something like that.
Like an explanation,
Why the parade's there.
Yeah, they gave up on the 2009 version didn't, but this 01 to whatever version did this like, this is why it's here. Not like, this park sucks, so we hoped you'd come over.
Disneyland is too crowded at night.
I don't know if Disneyland was even crowded at this point. This is the dark ages.
Yeah.
This is when
This
things
would have been
went
right after
awry.
9/11.
2005 is when the resurgence happened. This felt so out of place in that park.
It did. It was
always
terrible.
felt so out of place.
I mean, I loved seeing it.
That 2009, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but like when the Eagle, they had to pull the wings back so it could get through the construction site. And it was just walls of the Mermaid side and the World of Color side. It was just walls, and the Eagle to pull the wings in, and they went through the walls, and no one could follow it because it was just a tunnel. But yeah, I mean, this park was a dump.
I mean, this would be the same as if they ran this parade at Epcot, you know? It would just be weird.
Yeah. Speaking of parks that also are not true to their original thematic intent. There's 3 mice here. Oh, someone really wanted to zoom in on that.
With floats going different places, I think, I know it was Swan Lake and one other from Tokyo got sent to Paris, and it ended up there in '97. I can't remember what the other one was.
Yeah, so there was kind of like a redo for the 5th anniversary of Paris, where they kind of updated Electrical Parade. So this debuted July 3rd, 2001. And the soundtrack that they used was a modified version of the original Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade soundtrack from '85, which itself was a modified version of the '77 Electrical Parade soundtrack. It's just, imagine.
That's right. Don,
like, imagine this running through a park that's just like all stucco and has giant postcards and a giant hubcap sun and.
Yeah, she looks angry.
I'd be angry.
It's like, get this out of this park.
I went to DCA in 2001. I'd be very angry. Just got off Superstar Limo, and now I'm watching this parade.
The highlight of your trip.
Don redid a few of, like, there was a few minor tweaks to the soundtrack for Tokyo that carried over to Paris, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was in the '99 version in the Magic Kingdom.
Is that Grizzly Peak in the back? I'm trying to tell what that thing lit in the background is.
That is...
It is Grizzly Peak,
Grizzly Peak.
You used to be able to see it back then before the trees grew in.
That's something I think that is sad about that park. I wish they'd cut some of those trees so you could see Grizzly Peak again.
I think it's better we forget that was the park icon.
I think it still should be the park icon.
That was only the park icon after the hubcap.
Carthay's, they got to stop using the PAL around. It's got to be Carthay.
Carthay or Grizzly Peak. Either one of those is fine.
So you want them to pick an oddly shaped bear rock over a beautiful theater. Okay.
I said either is fine.
The bear rock that some people thought was a wolf. Okay. Let's move on. After a 6-year absence, an entirely new updated Electrical Parade returned to Tokyo Disneyland. Of course, Fan Illusion ran between. Tokyo Disneyland Electrical Parade Dreamlights premiered on June 17th, 2001. I got my comb. It is one of 2 remaining operational versions of the Electrical Parade. What are you saying?
I don't think it was June 17th. I remember because I bought you grand opening stuff and it said June 1st.
I didn't bring the grand opening stuff, so I don't know.
I'm 99% sure it's June 1st because it was on the grand opening stuff.
Well, it makes a huge difference, so let's linger on it. This version featured an entirely new soundtrack.
This is a historical document that we're putting together.
Don't you dare.
You can't dwell on Tom making a mistake.
I wrote this script 12 years ago, so it's totally possible that
we're using this video to teach school children
totally
all about the Electrical Parade.
I don't know, Spencer, look it up, figure it out.
I just did. It's June 1st.
It was June 1st. There you go. June 1st, 2001. Jake, if you want to start playing the original 2001 version video, you can.
Tom likes to add 7s to things.
7?
Yeah, 7.
This version featured an entirely new soundtrack focused more on orchestral music than electronic. It still featured Baroque Hoedown, though somewhat stylistically different from the Perry and Kingsley version. The new version of the parade featured updated versions of classic floats while introducing new ones based on Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., Aladdin, Finding Nemo, Winnie the Pooh, and It's a Small World. And during the Christmas season, of course not originally in 2001, Nemo came later. During the Christmas season, the soundtrack gets enhanced with Christmas carols along with decorated floats and changed dialogue to go along with the season. So the opening window here is going to be the Blue Fairy, the Knights of Light, and Mickey's Dreamlights Train, which features Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. We'll watch this one because this is actually pretty different. Obviously, the opening part really isn't, but this parade has gone through a number of changes, and there is some wacky stuff that's no longer around that you're going to see here.
Oh no, everything from '01 has been changed except for Casey Jr. That's the last thing they haven't changed yet.
Yeah, they've redone them all at some point, right?
I think someone told me that there was pictures. I never saw them, but someone told me there were pictures at some point of a new version of Casey Jr. for the next update. So that could be going soon too.
Okay. Man, what that's got to be like to just continually update a parade that exists.
I think after Fantalusion, they figured out that people liked this, but they didn't want it to just stay the same forever.
I think it makes sense. Like every 5 years, you bring in 3 new floats. It keeps it fresh. Like you've got something good. Yeah. Just when 1 or 2 of them feel dated, you just go back in and switch them out, right? Like it's not something that the Electrical Parade was doing it already, so it makes sense. It's just, we're going to rebuild something bigger and grander with modern technology, but once we have it, let's keep what people are really attached to and then update what makes sense to update.
So I don't know if this is in your script. When I talked to some people 2 years ago, what I was told is that Dreamlights was originally slated to go to the Magic Kingdom, and it was canceled at some point. Why, I've never been able to figure out, but this was originally built to go to Walt Disney World, and instead they chose to bring back Spectro Magic instead.
It's possible. I think by the time Electrical Parade returned, we knew we were updating Spectro. We put a lot of money in it. I think someone just realized that Spectro wasn't, it had life in it still. There wasn't a good reason to do something else. Because I mean, Spectro had huge crowds when it came back, so clearly they made the right decision, honestly. I mean, this would have been fantastic. But Spectro's a great parade.
No, yeah, I love Spectro Magic. That's my childhood.
Yeah. But considering Disneyland got 25 years out of the Electrical Parade, there's no reason that Spectro needed a lifespan that was only 8 years, right? I mean.
Well, I'd argue the same about Fantalusion. That is a shame.
It's a real shame that Fantalusion did not get a long life, and then the half-ass version that Paris ran.
What the story that I've heard about that is that European performers were too fat for a lot of the costumes.
No, it was
they had to cut a lot of the parade.
Purely budget.
Well, it was that, but also just Europeans couldn't fit in the costume.
No, but also running less units took less people. It's not like you couldn't have had people drive those floats. No, it was money. Paris was even though '95 happened and Paris, was out of the red, that didn't mean they were swimming in cash. They had money to do things, but they didn't have money to have 31 units running.
There's the next evolution of the toy soldiers. Now they're just dancers, and those are still around.
That I have wondered what those are. Now that makes sense. That makes way more sense now. And here's the original version of the Cheshire Cat. I don't know if this video is really getting across the scale. These things are giant.
The looks of that.
They're massive.
Number one, it's because this was designed from the ground up for Tokyo, and I think we have the widest parade route except for Shanghai.
And no obstructions above. Right. Absolutely none.
But also part of it is floats look bigger because we sit for parades instead of stand.
Well, there's a human sitting on that one, so you got a good idea of the size.
No, yeah, but when you stand up, a lot of the floats look less big than they are, honestly.
Look, even the whirly bugs, they're make them 6 times larger, just for no reason.
And they're terrifying.
Yeah, I'm not wild about them. The other ones are charming. These are kind of...
When USJ blatantly ripped off Dreamlights, they built a lot of these for their Alice in Wonderland.
It's probably because people that worked on one worked on the other.
Have you seen Magical Starlight? It's a trip.
I haven't. I think I've seen photos. I'm familiar with what you're talking about. Butterfly's a long-standing staple of every nighttime parade, just about. Here's your caterpillar. Go ahead. I know you've been waiting.
That caterpillar is so weird. Oh my god.
Isn't that like a villain from Super Mario Sunshine?
I'm not crazy about the faces on these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not very. They're I don't know.
It's almost like
they're
Spectrum
Japanese
Magic
faces.
No, this is like its own thing.
But them, I mean,
they
being
wanted it to
plastic
look more
instead
like
of
the
light.
Japanese art style.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
it
that's
is cool
something
that
we've done
like the middle is
more and
expanding and contracting, though. That's really neat. So that means the speed of the second part of the unit is I assume slowing down and speeding up in order to achieve that, which is pretty neat. Yeah, I don't know, Grandma Snail.
It's almost like this is a, like when you see like a video game update from like 8-bit to 16-bit or 16-bit to
a
next
remastered.
gen. Yeah,
remastered
it's like
it,
a
yeah.
remastered electrical parade.
So yeah, this section, Alice section includes Alice and the Cheshire Cat, Flowers, Ladybug, Butterflies, Inchworm, and Mr. and Mrs. Snail. Look, he's a newsie.
Yeah.
Wow. I will say, I think that we've come a long way, and the electrical parade is better than it used to be, but I do kind of wish those were around because they're very quirky and Tokyo-ish.
Here's a slightly updated pirate ship. It's very big. More than 2 people can fit on the pirate ship now.
So we're in the early 2000s here, right?
2001.
Yeah. Okay.
So this was done about a month before Disney's Electrical Parade came to California Adventure.
Yeah. Big difference.
Did Don work on this at all?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think
I know
busy.
I saw him in Special Thanks on the CD. I wasn't sure if he actually did anything on it.
I thought he was busy. I'm sure he consulted at least, but I believe he was working on Illuminations when this went into development.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Snow White
and
with a tree.
that's what ties back into this idea that it was for Disney World, is because people liked Fantalusion. It had high guest satisfaction, and it was still brand new. I genuinely think this was being built, and then halfway through Disney World said, never mind, we're just going to bring back SpectroMagic. And
I'm sure
Tokyo
there's some agreement
said,
where,
okay,
like,
well, we'll take it.
Yeah, Paris was going to give them money for Fantalusion, so Tokyo would get some money back and then could put that towards this, right? These mine cars are way too big. This is a weird unit.
I guess while we're going through the parade, I can say when things went. So all the Bugs and Alice went in 2011. The Cheshire Cat was changed in 2019. The Blue Fairy was changed in 2015. These went in 2011 with Snow White. That was a big year. The 10 years of the Electrical Parade, they changed a lot.
Yeah, Dopey's not driving the train this time. He's in the back now.
Does anybody else wish we had some popcorn while we're sitting here watching all these parades?
Wow.
It's almost breakfast.
I didn't
time.
eat breakfast before this show, and I'm very upset at myself now.
Actually, breakfast time.
I'm hungry.
It's almost.
And no, it's lunchtime. It's 12:30.
Oh. Should get some ramen.
That would require me to leave.
That's a big Elliot.
The face on this one is weird too. It has a very weird face in the original Dreamlights.
The next version of it is an odd choice. I like the new one, but it's weird that they changed the pose.
I've been wondering if it will change back, honestly.
Yeah.
I believe this is still in storage in some warehouse in Urayasu because they don't throw things out. So
They just have this.
maybe they could bring it
stored.
back.
That seems crazy.
They don't
this
really
evolution
throw
of the
things
vanishing
out.
effect is cool. It's really neat. Let's turn up, Jake, you turn up the music for a few moments so people could hear the musical difference.
So the parade, the idea with this is it goes from synthesized to orchestral and then back to synthesized. That was the MO they were going for.
Man, those are some derpy eyes.
The music was done.
The hair looks better on this one.
And even though the U.S. parts borrowed the soundtrack, a lot of the floats are very different. Like the Cinderella one is all orchestral here. Oh, and we use all pre-recorded dialogue, and half of it is in Japanese, half of it's in English.
Winnie the Pooh, the Honey Tree.
Elliot was changed in 2015. Pooh, I think, went in 2000.
Jake, you can pull that music down a bit. Is this the only appearance of the Pooh characters in an electrical parade? Is this the only one?
You mean the characters themselves?
Yeah.
Oh, because there were Pooh floats.
We saw the Pooh with
the hat,
hat,
that's right.
remember?
Yeah, he was in the America section. Yeah, that's right. I like the bees. Bees are cute. This Toy Story float is junk. It's just like a drum. And there's like a lasso above
This
him.
also went in 2011, and they replaced it with the Toy Story 3 float, which We Belong Together.
Which I think is still like the worst float in the parade.
You don't like the We Belong Together float?
No, it's just a stack of characters.
It's cute.
It's fine. It's better than this, for sure. Better than Plastic Bullseye.
Yeah, why is it Bullseye? Well, I guess 'cause he's a character. I feel like he should be made of lights, though.
Yeah, the aliens are lit. Buzz's rocket is pointed downward. He's going to crash.
Yeah, that's a homage to how a few years after this debuted, the Buzz float would collapse on the Tokyo Disneyland parade route.
Oh. Oh, those aliens are not great.
Creepy.
The Beauty and the Beast float has had an interesting saga because this went away in 2007, and then they brought it back in 2017 because the ride was coming and they wanted to tie it in.
I love the new one. It's great.
And the thing is, they even kind of paid tribute to it. They basically rebuilt this. Lumiere's a bit different, but he's still a giant animatronic.
I mean,
on a
it's
float.
laid out pretty much the same. He's still like on a stack of things, and
I think
and then the
they either saved the float for Belle and the Beast, or they just rebuilt it exactly the same, but with the newer design language.
Yeah.
I miss dancers and parades. I hope those come back soon.
Are they dishes? I can't tell what these people are.
Yeah, they're cup and saucer.
Oh, yeah. All right.
The weirdest float
Is there
ever is right after.
There's a Disney copyright on the back of the plates.
Yep.
That's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Wait, what?
They're on the back of those people on the plates, like where the copyright or the manufacturer would be, it said Disney.
Oh my God.
That's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, the only difference, other than, it looks newer on the new one, is that there's a rotating platform on the new one.
Yeah, it's cool. Oh my God, a Bug's
This float
Life?
makes me laugh. I can't believe this is a thing.
I mean, the time it was built, right?
Was it that popular of a movie?
I mean, there were only 3 Pixar movies, and 2 of them were Toy Story.
It wasn't in the top 2 Pixar movies.
Is that a P.T. Flea costume?
But this is one of
it's
those
all
things,
of them.
right?
Oh my
To
God.
promote it with the parade.
Sure.
And some are hits, some are misses.
Look at these costumes.
This went away in 07 because of Bugs Life was not a long-lasting IP.
Why is the stick guy's just made of light? It's not even like it doesn't even look like the character. Flicking Ada. Wow. And then, of course, they replace this with an Avengers float. Ant-Man.
Yeah, if Marvel
The
movies made more than $5
the PIM
in
Technologies
Japan.
Electrical Parade. I think
mean,
that's the point at which I
Avengers
might have to
movies
check
make more
out
than
when we get a
$5
Marvel
in
Electrical
Japan, I
Parade
would
float.
laugh.
Come on, the Star Wars and Marvel Electrical Parade.
No, I think I
floats
gotta leave.
would look pretty.
I think I gotta leave at that point. The Swans are back.
These went in 2011 as well.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. All right, Jake, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's jump to the next float, maybe. Fairy Godmother. Okay, jump again. Oh, those horse legs are freaky. Not like those. The horses are too big for the carriage.
They are. They're
Yeah.
giant.
This was redone in 2017.
All right, jump forward. All right, new version of the clock. It's now like sort of on the float where the prince is with the sisters, right? They've kind of combined. Oh no, there's a canopy float coming up behind. Fast forward.
We do
There we
not
go,
have
we
a
got a
canopy
canopy.
anymore. Wait, no, yes we do, kind of.
We have girls in spinning, lit up dresses. They are mounted in place. That can't be a fun shift. I'd be so dizzy. We're gonna lock you in an apparatus and spin you, and you just have to swing your arms around for 35 minutes. All right, fast forward. Ah, here we go. Small
the
World
best part of the
finale.
parade.
The great finale.
This was redone in 2015.
You know, like I understand. Like I miss the America finale, but I've always felt like Electric Parade just didn't have a good ending. And Spectro just had one of the best.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then this one takes it to a whole nother level beyond that. And like I said, the Mary Blair Small World iconography works really great. The dolls never do, but you can use the imagery. It works great. The music, obviously, too. I love that when the music stops for a second and they pose. 3 Little Pigs.
You can still meet the 3 Little Pigs in Japan.
That's a glorious thing. A hot air balloon. Chip and Dale. Choreography's not very intense. Lotto just rocking back and forth. Look at how many units are in this finale. Look at this.
And these floats actually are massive, I will say.
They're very
These
big.
things are huge and they are tall.
It's a proper finale.
And when they announced the new one for Disneyland, I was like, this is not going to hold a candle to what we did. And I saw it, I'm like, this is it.
It was a cheap overlay of an existing float.
I mean, and it's fine, and it's cute. It's just,
I hate it.
You can't...
The music's all over the place. The dolls look bad.
And we don't display our sponsor on the drum. No, no, no. They get their own float at the end of the parade with its own soundtrack, too.
I can't believe someone just put their arm up in front of someone's camera. You can't see it, but that person has been dragged away. Dragged away and deported.
They've been put in the secret jail, and they'll be thrown into Mount Prometheus after the park closes.
Was that Roger Rabbit?
I was going to say that. Is it?
Oh, man.
Yeah, Roger was on the original finale.
Aw. Miss you, Roger. Free Roger Rabbit.
Can you still meet Roger?
And of course, the big ending, a corporate logo. Woo! All right. Spencer basically already brought up a bunch of these other changes. You said Bug's Life was replaced in 07. That was replaced with Finding Nemo and Monsters, Inc. The Christmas version started in 07, which they really just kind of put, what is it, some costume changes. They put a wreath on Casey Jr. The music at the beginning is a little different.
There's costume changes. Santa hats are everywhere. I remember Mike and Sully had Santa hats on them. It was super cute. Yeah. There's lots of just little touches here and there, but it's fun. I like the Christmas version of the parade.
2011, they got the... They retired the Dwarf's Mine, the Inchworm, Woody's Roundup, Buzz Lightyear, Beauty and the Beast, Pumpkin Coach, Swan Lake were replaced with Aladdin, which has Genie, Aladdin, and Jasmine, the Toy Story 3 float, the Disney Fairies, and then in 2015 they got the Tangled float, as well as a number of other floats got brand new lighting. Peter Pan and the Blue Fairy received LED. When did Beauty and the Beast debut?
2017. That's also when Frozen came into the parade.
Frozen was 17 also. Yes, for some reason I thought Tangled was in that group, but Tangled was on its own.
17 is also when they canned Monsters, Inc. and Finding Nemo, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, because I saw those my first trip, and those were gone.
That's Streamlight.
And in 2021 they canned the Disney Fairies because that unit was dumb.
Wow. Or is that a COVID thing, or it's actually gone?
No, it's actually gone as far as I know.
All right. So moving back to California, the parade ran untouched at California Adventure until the summer of 2009. Jake, if you want to put that 09 video on a bit. And the Summer Night-tastic promotion. Who remembers Summer Night-tastic? Including, they were supposed to be a dragon that never debuted. That was great. The new version, well, you're watching the Disney World one, but it's the same parade. The new version included a Tinkerbell opening float replacing the Blue Fairy and new versions of the original Snow White and Pinocchio. They rebuilt them. All of the floats were also upgraded to LED lighting and added a magical pixie dust swoosh. The most dramatic change was the music, which was now based on the Tokyo Dreamlights parade without the vocal sections. June 12th, 2009, Summer Night-tastic. Then with the construction of the $1.1 billion expansion of the park, the parade was closed at DC on April 18, 2010. Of course, World of Color would debut just a couple weeks later. So it was decided, Florida was like, hey, we want to do the Summer Night-tastic thing next year. Could we borrow it? And they're like, yeah, sure. We're going to send you a bunch of dead batteries, but you can borrow it. And so on June 5th, 2010, I think we soft opened the night before, but on June 5th, 2010, they began what was supposed to be a summer-only run at the Magic Kingdom of the Main Street Electrical Parade. So Spectrum Magic ended a couple days before that, was supposed to come back. It never did. Also this time in Paris, Fantalusion ended its run in 2012 due to budgetary concerns. The parade went back into storage as it had been 9 years prior, and there was actually no replacement to the show. making 2012 the last time a true dedicated nighttime parade ran in Paris. The next leg of our journey brings us to the park that refused the nighttime parade in the first place, Hong Kong Disneyland. Again, there's rumors the parade was definitely sent there. It's unclear if it was landfilled, if it was thrown in the ocean, no one knows. But by early 2014, Hong Kong had finally started to turn a profit, and so wanted to celebrate by bringing in visitors to stay for the night. Unlike other times when Disney cloned an existing thing or shipped something from another place, they learned their mistake, and they decided they would build a new one, a completely new nighttime parade, the first new one in 2 decades since Light Magic. First completely new original thing. The team in Hong Kong had seen the evolution of the parades, and work began on it. And then on September 11, 2014, the incredibly revolutionary Paint the Night electrical parade debuted at Hong Kong Disneyland. Won't get too much into there.
Do they still have Paint the
Does
Night?
anyone actually know the reason why Hong Kong denied running the Main Street Electrical Parade?
I believe it was a money thing. I think it was a money thing. There wasn't enough to do in the park, and I think they knew people were not going to stay late. Park was meant to be a half-day diversion kind of thing. It did not have a lot to do in it. I mean, not far off from DC, a park that opened is kind of a junk heap, other than the fact that it's in like the most beautiful location of any Disney park on earth. Obviously, it's much better now.
Maybe like with DCA, if they had put a parade in, people would have stayed.
That didn't really make that many people stay at DCA. Let's remember what actually happened at DCA. They moved electrical parade. You know what people did? People had park hopper tickets, and they came over for the parade, and then they went back to Disneyland. Like that was, it was not making people spend time in DCA. It didn't truly work. So they were getting park hopper numbers, but they weren't really, attendance wasn't much improved. Disneyland would see the success of Paint the Night and decided for their 60th anniversary diamond celebration that they would get Paint the Night, and they'd add more units to it. And so 2015, they did get Paint the Night. After all of that, Disney announced that the Main Street Electrical Parade would finally be ending its limited time 3-month engagement just 74 months after the official end date of October. And then ended on October 9th, 2016. It would be shipped back to Disneyland from the Magic Kingdom. So October 9th came, Magic Kingdom said goodbye to the parade, and a few weeks later, eagle-eyed guests were spotting pieces of the show beginning to appear backstage at Disneyland. And then on January 19th, 2017, just under 21 years after it said farewell, the Main Street Electrical Parade finally came back to Disneyland, and people loved it. Obviously, people adored Paint the Night and craved for its return, but people were also very happy to see the electrical parade back home, at least for a quote-unquote farewell run. So Paint the Night did end up having another run at DCA, and since then has been missing, and people think it was sent here, and people think it stayed in California. No one seems to know where the hell the thing is. And of course, some less reputable sites said that at the last Destination D, they were going to announce it for Florida. Obviously, that didn't happen. There's no plans for it here because, again, I think when Happily Ever After debuted, I think there was this realization that, like, number one, from a crowd control standpoint, we kind of have our hands full. And then on top of that, there's no real good reason to have it, right? Why spend that money if you already can't handle the one thing you have?
I don't understand. Floats are huge. I don't understand how there could be any discrepancy on where giant parade floats are.
Right? They're still in California. I don't think they ever came here. I know people believe that. I don't think they were ever shipped. I'm sure a conversation was had at some point, and I'm sure, I would bet, Happily performed better than they imagined. And they're like, you know what? We from an operational standpoint, it doesn't make sense. And then from a budget standpoint, it doesn't make sense either. Happy's drawing crowds. We don't need it. Let's not do it.
So from here, what I was told is that Paint the Night was unable to go to the Magic Kingdom because of the Liberty Square turn. And they would have to spend a few tens of thousands of dollars to redo that area to make the curve palatable. I think it's for Mac, isn't it? Really
only Disney World made tens of thousands of dollars at like one location a day, like Savi's Workshop or, the Emporium or. But
I can't imagine.
I gotta say, like,
some concrete barriers would be that expensive.
It's kind of a nightmare, right? Like, I remember when Happily was at its height. Like, crowd control was kind of a nightmare. I get it. Like, it makes sense. Like, I don't know that I'd want to unleash more hell into that situation.
But you have at Disneyland, which is a smaller park. You have Fantasmic, you have fireworks. And you have the electrical parade.
Yeah.
And they all work. Somehow, Disneyland, why do they know how to do crowd control there but not here?
It's not that they know how to do it. I think that the scheduling works, right? So Fantasmic pulls people away from Main Street, and Main Street pulls people away from Fantasmic, right?
Well, I also think it's a headache. It's not knowing how to do it. It's wanting to go through the logistical nightmare of doing it.
And I also, remember, Disneyland doesn't do it all the time. We don't stop, right? Like, when we were running Electrical Parade, it was every night. So if we had brought Paint the Night, it would have been a nightly thing every day of the year. Disneyland, it's pretty easy to be like, oh, in the summer we want strong attendance, so we'll commit to this crazy crowd control, which honestly was always a mess there too.
Yeah.
But then September would come and they'd be like, all right, time to take a break.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think it's a little more taxing here on your cast. I think if you did that on a nightly basis, I think it's a lot to deal with. I'm not saying it's not lesser show and it's not giving guests less. It is. So, I'll always be the first guy to be like, oh, they're trying to just save money and make more money. Sure, but at the same time, I also think from the time Happily opened, that park was overcrowded, and certainly now it's
they solved that problem with Enchantment.
I mean, it's still got a crowd every night. People, the Walt Disney, because the Walt Disney World audience is dumb. Well, it doesn't matter. I can shoot sparklers off from the castle. Yeah. And people would stand there and watch it, the same size crowd. It's irrelevant, and they know that, right? Like, so we don't like it, but it doesn't actually matter. Like, the Disney World audience is the dumbest audience of all 6 resorts. Yeah. It's the one we don't have to work hard. There's no reason to try because people show up anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd like to point you to the park where for 2 years people have been buying day tickets to buy the most meaningless crap merchandise for parks that are basically unfinished. And when they raised prices by 30% over 2 years, they're still willing to pay to go every single day for 2 years. And tell me Disney World is not the dumbest audience.
Are you talking about Tokyo?
Yes.
I would gladly buy any sort of ticket that was available to ride Journey to the Center of the Earth or Tower of Terror or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or any of that.
But what do you do when you have gone through all 12 rides?
I sit with the gyoza dog and stare at the most beautiful theme park ever built. And understand that it was a worldwide cataclysmic event and eventually they'll recover. The difference, the conversation I'm having started before this, right? Like Happily was a great show. But clearly, like when that debuted, they realized we don't need anything else. This is fine. Like people really love this and people are happy. There doesn't need to be another thing to wait for. People saw the fireworks, they're ready to go home. Let them go home.
Yeah, no, that's
Let them go home. People saw something great that they loved. It's enough. Then tomorrow night, they'll go to Epcot and they'll see a show. They'll see Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, another show they'll love.
Well,
then they'll go to Hollywood Studios and see Fantasmic, another show they'll love, right?
Well, right. It comes down to a parade's not getting anybody to spend any more money.
No, but also like it's Disney World. We have more nighttime shows. They're just at other parks. So the next night you'll see something else different.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need 2 at Magic Kingdom, right?
Then you'll see Rivers.
Why was Once Upon a Time introduced then?
That was like a hold people over thing, right? So if they ran it before, it was like a pre-show, kind of like something for you to watch while you waited. And if they'd run it later, it was typically a way to keep people from mobbing the monorail and the ferry all at once. That was the purpose of Once Upon a Time or any of those shows, was either pre-show, like expand the breadth of the entertainment a bit, or in a lot of cases, can we get some people to stay back and not just cram out of the park after fireworks?
which may not be the worst idea in the world right now.
No, I missed those. I thought all of those were great. I loved every one of those. Magic Memories and You was great. Celebrate the Magic, probably the best of the group. And Once Upon a Time was no slouch either. Those are all very good shows.
Oh, no, Once Upon a Time was great. It would have been better if it had been the original show and not butchered to hell, but...
Celebrate the Magic's still the best one of those, though. Like, I still think that was
Celebrate the Magic was really good.
Yeah. Where are we in the story? We're getting towards the end here. There's a super chat. What's a super chat? Did Jason eat a 20-piece McNugget with very sweet and sour sauce to stay up for this?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Maybe I should have. I had a pub sub for dinner.
Thanks for sharing.
I mean, they paid us money. They're obviously, you have to talk
I know. That's the
I think
rule.
you have another one.
There's another one? Or you just forgot to,
Oh.
I forgot to turn the light off. We have our own, like, electrical parade going on, Big Man. So, yeah, paint the
So,
night,
Spencer, I want to
blah,
take
blah.
issue with your argument about the stupidity of Disney World guests. The people in Tokyo are buying tickets in order to go buy merchandise to resell it and make money. They're not buying tickets to go in the park.
They're buying tickets to go buy merchandise for their boss who gives them a paycheck in the United States. So
they're not buying tickets because they want to go to the park every day. That's the difference.
Okay,
people
actually,
here
hang
want
on
to
a
come
second.
to the
think they
park.
also go to the park and enjoy it.
No. They absolutely are going to the park every single day, especially the people who are absolutely crazy obsessed with character photography. Those people will buy a ticket every day until they die.
Well, let them have
matter.
fun.
Let them do it. That doesn't make them die.
I'm not saying they can't have
Hey,
fun.
Doug,
I'm
it's
just
a
saying
great
I want my
place.
AP back.
I would go ride Honey Hunt every day. I wouldn't be bored of it.
I just want my pass back. I will stop complaining about TDR when they bring my pass back. That's all I want.
A place where there's legitimately great attractions where I don't have to hear 20-year-old CPs go on and on about how Guardians of the Galaxy's Roller Coaster in the Dark is the greatest ride they've ever been on. It's fun. I like it a
Guardians
lot.
is fun.
But
Makes
like,
me ill.
if that's the best ride you've ever been on, you got to get out. You got to go see some things. Anyway, so 2017, the farewell of the Main Street Electrical Parade happens from June until August at Disneyland. Seems like that might be it. But then in 2019, Disneyland's like, oh, we don't need entertainment. We've got the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. No one showed up. So Nick and I were there alone in the street looking at Star Wars things, but just the tumbleweeds are rolling through. It's just us and the cast members and just drinking our $6 thermal detonator sodas. And so Disney realized, oh no, how are we going to save the summer? And the answer always is the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Oh, it's always there for you.
Yep, don't worry about your billion-dollar land. Let's go dig out the Christmas lights again. So they decided a very last-minute and very short run, August 2nd to September 30th. That was it. The shortest run in the history of nighttime parades. That was the whole season. Less than 2 months.
That was the fastest they could put it together?
I mean, it was sitting there. They're like, just open the door. Let it out. So obviously then it went away. It was strongly implied that the parade would return every summer of 2020. Obviously the park wasn't even open. And then ahead of Disneyland actually finally reopening in 2021, there were already rumors that Electrical Parade was going to get dug out as part of Disneyland's back, Electrical Parade's back. It obviously would take them some time to get things in motion before finally this year for the 50th anniversary of the parade, which I think is one of the actual times it made sense to bring back the Electrical Parade, if there ever was a reason to bring it back for the 50th. With a new finale, they got rid of To Honor America, and in its place, we have, Jake, you can pull up the current video. In its place, we have the new inclusive finale, which is this rainbow of Mary Blair-esque scenes from more recent Disney films for the most part, with a Small World clock tower finale that replaces the eagle. And of course, a new introduction, the first time that the Ladies and Gentlemen has been removed, as that's a thing that's happening right now as part of the inclusivity movement.
It was first removed here.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, like for the actual electrical parade. The one that turned 50 years old. Well, Jake's fast forwarding.
You can tell
Jake's
it's
like, time for bed.
Because someone is...
And of course, you got this really cool 50 years.
Live stream right next to Charlie.
That's so cool. And this feels right? Like coming out of COVID, you know, you want this nostalgia. And again, it's the 50th anniversary. I'm never usually the guy that's like, oh yeah, the electrical parade's coming back. But this was the one time where I was like, this is neat. I like this. Like this is a cool moment.
We want that nostalgia in Florida too.
I mean, would it have been nice for our 50th? Yeah, sure. I would have taken paint. I would have taken anything. I would have taken a cast member with sparklers.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Walking down the street, just humming the 50th song.
Yeah.
Anything's got to be better
There's
than
a 50th anniversary celebration? What's that?
But I mean, it is 50 years at Disneyland. Like this is, it's the right thing. And I agree with this decision.
Honestly, like, I do like the clock tower a lot. I think it's really pretty. I have mixed feelings on the dolls, but I really like the clock tower.
It looks out of place. I don't know. It just feels very out of place. The doll, my problem is more, it's not even necessarily the dolls themselves. It's the way it was assembled. Like no one realized in attaching things to a very old parade that like they're not going to stay still. So as the parade comes down the street, the dolls just vibrate violently. And so all these characters just kind of shaking down the parade route. Like the art is good. Whoever did the art did a nice job. The Mary Blair versions of the buildings are cute. There's nothing wrong with the art. The idea of like we're simply going to convert the bacon float, and it's like I don't really understand why the characters are on a magical rainbow serape. I don't know how that came about. You know, if you're gonna do the finale, I would have changed the shape. I would have gotten rid of the weird flowy thing. I would have done something a little different. But clearly, I think it was a last minute thing. I don't think they were gonna do it. I think it was a very last minute like. Here's what's going on in the company right now. Would it be nice if we could push that inclusivity movement into the Electrical Parade's 50th?
I like the projections on Main Street and Sleeping Beauty Castle that come with that float, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's a nice little plus to make it stand out. The other problem is it's a definite downgrade no matter what, because the America float had a bunch of performers with it. And instead, you have no performers with this finale now. So it doesn't raise the stakes of what you've seen before. And then for the end, they didn't light the rope people. So there's rope people in what is the ugliest parade costume I've ever seen. They're not lit. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's just, it was like the least effort anyone could put forward, they did. So, I don't know. The positives are that they got Electrical Parade out, you know, this early on into the reopening, and they did the 50th drum, and, you know, someone at least tried to do a new finale, which it's, you know, it's mediocre. It's fine. It's not the worst thing.
So, you know, we talked earlier about how we don't know where Paint the Night is. Do you think it'll resurface again?
I don't know. I wish I could understand the thought process. The other thing I've heard is that Paint the Night has some interesting issues. I think supposedly a lot of the costuming is uncomfortable. So I think they had or heavy. I think they had some problems, you know, with the union and such. That's one of the things I've heard. I don't know. But there clearly seems to be a good reason why they keep avoiding Paint the Night. And I don't know if it is. It's like, oh, it's an ace in the hole. You know, that's Electrical Parade's like all right, we know people will come, but if Electrical Parade stops working, we've got another one. That's what it feels like. I don't know. And I mean, I sometimes am scared that Paint the Night exists because I am always fearful that they'll just give up on World of Color and just run that at DCA, and it scares me. I don't know.
I mean, they just spent millions of dollars redoing World of Color after leaving it in the water for a year and a half.
It's the second time It's the second time in 5 or 6 years, though, that they had to redo World of Color. A show that they were promised would have less maintenance cost associated with it and would cost less than Fantasmic because there were no performers. And to date, it has cost them more than Fantasmic. So, I mean, they made some, like World of Color is a beautiful show. I love it. You ask anyone who worked on it, they'll tell you they made some mistakes in the design process. Like there's some things they wish they can go back and do over. And that raising and lowering platform is absolutely one of them.
I remember reading a thing, I think it was last week, that was like one of the original Imagineers said they wish that they had programmed the water levels in Paradise Bay to raise and lower rather than the platform.
The platform's all the problems. The platform has always been the problem. World of Color had a ton of problems. There's a bunch of things that never worked. The Chernobog thing that was in the back that was still there on opening day that never went up. The bubble domes that got cut away. There was so many things for that show that were envisioned that just didn't work.
Our bubble domes for Fantasmic were for World of Color originally?
No, they weren't inflatable domes. They were these weird, I don't know how to explain it.
It was a projection screen.
Almost like think of it like an eyeball.
It was half of a circle. A
half circle that faced the crowd, and then the projector just shot into it, and so it would look like a bubble, and there'd be fish in it, and it only came up for a couple of segments. I think it came up for Mermaid, the So Close segment, the like touchy-feely segment, and then it would go away again.
Yeah,
and then eventually they were like, you know what, whatever's there, just project it on the Mickey face and the screaming sun, and we'll leave it at that.
Those bubbles were cool, but it was always like oddly jarring.
You heard them come up, they were loud.
And they didn't fit with the rest of the show.
And then recently they got rid of a lot of cool stuff. So the screaming sun projector thing doesn't go on anymore. The butterflies, they ripped the butterflies out from the Pocahontas scene. But we're talking about Electro Parade. I'm not going to go on my World of Color rant about how they've ruined the show. Yeah.
Was this area lighting new for this version, or did they have that before?
I think they've been they might have reprogrammed again, but they've been using the light since it came back in 17. Jake asked about this lighting that keeps changing for each unit. I think they were doing some of it for the 17 run and the 19 run, but I think it got reprogrammed. I think they picked different colors and sequences for this edition. But yeah. So that's 50 years of the Main Street Electrical.
Should we jump ahead to the new unit? Because we still haven't seen it yet.
Well, we got a lot of talking to do.
We could just have our closing thoughts, and I'm sure by the time we have those done, it'll be on screen. Does anyone want to say anything? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I grew up with the Main Street Electrical Parade. This was the highlight of every trip. And it's one of those things that you're sad when it goes away, but you're happy that Disney lied to you and told you that it wasn't coming back. I mean...
They killed Spectrum Match.
At some point when Disney lies to you, you can be upset. But when they lie to you and tell you that the Main Street Electrical Parade is glowing away forever, you can be happy that that's a lie.
The two worst Disney lies were the time they lied when they left Spectre out in the sun, and then the Toy Story Marionette Show. Those are my two least favorite Disney lies.
But I mean, so one thing that makes it clear to me, and this actually was clear right after the Spectro incident, was that there are so many versions of the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Yeah.
They rebuilt these floats so many times. They rebuilt floats. They built entire floats for one-time use.
Yeah.
There's no reason they can't rebuild Spectrum Magic if they wanted to.
Of course.
There's also no reason they can't bring Paint the Night to Florida. There's no and so, as the time has gone on since the Spectro incident, it's become clearer and clearer to me that Disney doesn't really care enough to have a nighttime parade in Florida. And that's what upsets me.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, if it's gone long enough, you're going to have people who never knew or cared about having that nighttime parade. So it's going to matter less and less the longer it's not there.
But this is also my argument at every one of these things. Every time, like Tom talks about, Disney World guests are the dumbest guests.
No.
That's true. They're dumb because they pay way too much money to come and have subpar offerings that are in many times worse than they have been in the past.
When I say dumb, I don't mean like as human beings. I mean as a consumer of this thing. And when I say dumb, I mean they're not educated about what they're consuming, right? Like, so it's for a lot of them, it's the first time they've seen any of these things, so there is no baseline.
Right. But
there's no way to judge it against anything except like their local amusement park or Universal.
But so here's the problem, and that leads perfectly into what the problem is. They have nothing to judge this against except for value for money. Mm-hmm. And when you look at value for money, it's a tough call, right? Like, there are certain instances where you could take a 7-night cruise on any cruise line other than Disney for the most part and pay less money.
Yeah.
And have a better experience, better vacation. Yeah. And so what Disney World...
You could travel to any number of world cities.
You could go to Japan for a week and go to Tokyo Disneyland and pay less money. You could pay less money to fly to Japan and spend a week in the park there than in Florida. And speaking of uneducated, no one thinks that's the case, but it's absolutely the case.
Yeah, it's not as expensive
as you think.
And so
the problem is that when there's all these other experiences out there, whether it's an amusement park or a different theme park or a cruise or something totally different, when people have to plan vacations, they look at value for money.
Yeah.
And they plan a Disney vacation, and they understand that it's an expensive vacation, but they think the value's there. Then they come here, and if the value's not there, their future planning of vacations is not going to include Disney World as a possibility because the value wasn't there the last time they came.
Real quick, I just want to comment. The Tinkerbell float was heavily modified when it went back to Disneyland. It was a balloon originally, but Disneyland didn't have the height clearances for the balloon, so the Blue Fairy didn't come back, but they moved the Tinkerbell float into the middle of the parade and put her just on a flower. Anyway.
So you're very right, Jason. I think the idea of having that baseline experience line is a valid point, but I think it feels like Disney has pushed up to that line so far that now they've pushed over that line, right?
I
think
they're over the line. Yeah. The problem is that it's not going to become apparent for 5 or 10 years that they're over the line.
Yeah.
And current management doesn't understand that there even exists a line, let alone the fact that they're over it. And I think they've been
isn't going to be around in 5 or 10 years.
Well, no, which is the other problem too, but that's totally different.
I mean, maybe they'll be CEO. I don't know.
But the problem is that by the time Disney realizes that they've gone over that line, in a lot of ways, it's too late to go back.
And so to bring it to this, I mean, simple things like giving you a nighttime parade that doesn't bring any extra revenue into the park, but increases the experience.
Increases guest experience, yeah.
But see, so Disneyland, there was a big reason to do it, right? They wanted to increase capacity and sell more tickets. And so Disneyland is a very expensive proposition. In many cases, Disneyland Resort is more expensive to visit than Disney World. Flights to Los Angeles
Very
are typically from just about anywhere more expensive than to Orlando. Disney, if you stay at a Disneyland Resort hotel, they're more expensive. But even, if you want to stay at least a clean hotel in the Anaheim area, they're more expensive than a lot of 192 and I Drive things here as well. And then food is more expensive, absolutely, at Disneyland, even though, you'll probably eat more counter service. The food is higher priced.
I think the argument, though, is that when you come to Disney World, you generally need to buy 5, 6, or 7 day ticket. At Disneyland, you can get away with a 2 or 3 day ticket and be done, and then go do other things.
Yeah.
Which are a different value proposition for half of your vacation.
And also,
right?
This is geared towards a local audience, right? These entertainment things are brought back to cause another wave of locals to come back, right?
Absolutely.
And
which so
they need and we don't. They have a harder. The other ones all have to work harder because the clientele is more educated and needs a kick in the ass to come visit. They need something to spur the visit. Yeah.
Right. And so
I'm not talking about the people that come at the Magic Key. That's what we're talking about. In LA or in Southern California in total, it's a way of life. A couple times a year, everyone looks at each other and they go, "We haven't been to Disneyland in a while. You want to go on Saturday? All right, sure." That's just kind of the way of life out there.
Yeah, that's how it is here. That's in every I think part.
It's in every
not here. That's not
everywhere but Orlando.
There seems to be more Floridians going now. It's a post-COVID thing. Pre-COVID, I don't think it's usually a thing where a lot of people in Tampa look at each other and go,
"No,
we haven't been to Disney in a month or two. Do you want to go down on Saturday?" It's not.
No,
it's not as much of a thing.
It's not. No, it's absolutely not.
More so now. We've seen a big shift post-COVID, but
because people still don't want to fly.
It's definitely, and I'll vouch for the fact that it's a thing here, because I'll be at school and I'll just be hearing people be like, "Hey, we haven't been to Disneyland in a few months. We haven't been to Disney Sea since before COVID, blah, blah, blah. You want to go in a couple weeks?" It's the same thing.
Well, that's why they have to try, right? And that's why in January they'll launch a seasonal event about Minnie Mouse or whatever they do half the time, right?
Again, for the third time.
Yeah, but still, it's something, Spencer, right? In Florida, we don't get anything. We're in the middle of a 50th anniversary that doesn't change other than the fact that occasionally someone goes, "Oh, we should probably open another one of the rides we were supposed to open 2 years ago." We have phases of rides that they're holding back, and that's all we've got. And a kite tail show that was introduced for the 50th and didn't even make it halfway through the event before they're like, screw it. Just cut half of it away. And the Nemo show, when we bring that back, it's going to be 20 minutes shorter and have half the people.
I will say, having now been to Orlando twice in the past year, I do not, I'm with Jason on this, I don't see a reason to go back until Epic Universe opens. Yeah. Even with Tron, I feel like I can wait. I want to go back to Disneyland. Even I would go back for Christmas if I had the time and the money.
Sure.
I don't feel like I need to go back to Orlando.
I like going to Paris more than I like going down the street. And Paris is a way harder trip and way more expensive.
I would fly to Los Angeles and go to Disneyland for a couple of days if I had the money. I mean, there's no reason, I feel like, for Walt Disney World. And they're not going to realize it till they've burned through all these people who, except for the diehard fans, just aren't going to come back.
No, we're specifically talking about entertainment. We have the worst entertainment of anyone. Disneyland Paris doesn't have
entertainment is a big part of it.
Paris doesn't have a pot to piss in, and meanwhile, their 30th show parade thing has 50 performers, 4 stages, and pyro, and the floats are going around the stages and things. I'm like, we don't have any. We have 4 guys on jet skis with some kites, and it was the worst thing people ever saw. And meanwhile, in Paris, where there's no money, they have a 30th where they brought in drones and a daytime show that at least is kind of cool.
Our 50th anniversary is the worst anniversary celebration I've ever seen at any Disney park anywhere in the world.
That's fair.
No,
don't you dare.
Tokyo Disney Sea 20th anniversary.
Don't you? I have a giant pillow that says
go there.
It's shaped like a globe.
It is a line of merchandise and
a
greeting with 5 characters 100 feet away. It is the worst.
That was good.
I love having a studio technician. It's great.
So whatever Spencer was saying about Tokyo Disney Sea's 20th anniversary is irrelevant because we can't go there.
They also have a nighttime parade in Tokyo. So let's try to get back. I don't necessarily want the 50th anniversary of Electro Parade discussion to morph into the problems of Disney World and why we don't have entertainment, because I don't think it's necessarily pertinent to tonight's conversation. I want to keep it to tonight is a special night. This is never going to happen with any piece of entertainment in themed entertainment history again. A show of some kind has made it 50 years. Like, that doesn't happen.
And it started out with a pretty simple idea of these light parades at night, like Christmas lights at night. And it's funny because it really speaks to what we love. I mean, another beloved thing was Osborne's Spectacle of Lights, which is Christmas lights. We love these things as human beings. We love to look at these light spectacles.
In my mind, nighttime entertainment is a very uniquely Disney thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, other parks sort of do it, but
they try, but like, I don't know if I've seen a nighttime show at a non-Disney park that I ever thought was good.
No. And so nighttime entertainment is a thing Disney invented. It's a thing that Disney generally perfected, although doesn't do it well anymore. But it's a uniquely Disney thing. And any nighttime spectacular at a Disney park is going to be better than any nighttime entertainment at any other theme park in the world. And so that's one of the things that makes people want to come to a Disney park. It's one of the things that makes people want to come back to a Disney park. And it's one of the things that people expect when they go to a Disney park. Yeah. And so that's why when Fantasmic is back at Disneyland, but it's still not back here, right? You don't have Rivers of Light here anymore. We're in a much worse situation with nighttime entertainment than we were before.
Yeah.
And
there's no planned replacement for Rivers either.
There's no planned replacement, and there's no actual real good excuse other than money.
It's like we failed. We spent money on that. It didn't work out. Just forget it.
Forget it.
Leave the theater. Because if you remember, like, obviously our post was pretty correct. Several years ago, we posted what the rumored 50th entertainment was, and it was all right. The only thing that was on there that didn't happen was an updated Rivers of Light. The Kite Show was happening regardless. The Kite Show was not a replacement.
No, it was the daytime.
It was just something to do with the theater during the day.
Right.
The decision to cut Rivers of Light and not move forward with the 50th show was a post-COVID, like, yeah, you know what? Just forget it. Yeah.
Which, if that's all they did post-COVID, that was a removal of entertainment, I'd kind of be okay with it.
That park should have, you built that amphitheater, you should have a nighttime show.
It should have something.
A good nighttime show can be done in that park. Someone with some sort of talent and vision needs to tackle that, and it needs to happen. I think that park feels incomplete so long as it does not have a real nighttime show. Tree of Life Awakenings is great. It's not a nighttime show. It's like a surprise and delight. They're two different things, right? And there's two ways to succeed in Disney parks, right? I think there are two things in themed entertainment that work. Either something is so grandiose and special and magical and it just blows people away.
I think World of Color fits that.
Or it is charming.
Happily ever after.
Those are the two ways you delight guests. I think something just either blows them away or just so cute and charming and gives you those warm and, like Electro Parade gives you those warm and fuzzy feelings. Don said in the interview, which we aired earlier today, he's like, it's that you feel like, it feels like Christmas. I get the feeling of Christmas when and it's not just because it's Christmas lights, it's part of it, but it does have like that Christmas morning feel. That's a charm. It's Christmas, that's like a charm, right? Like there's nothing grandiose and amazing about Christmas at home. You put a dead tree in your living room and put lights on it. It's a charming thing, but that's how human emotion attached to either you're wowed or you fall in love with something. It's one of those two things.
And I think World of Color is the wow. Yeah. Honestly, I think Paint the Night is the wow.
Yeah.
Paint the Night is absolutely a wow.
Spectro was kind of between the two. But
Spectra was like an
little bit of both.
evolution of Electrical Parade more than anything else.
a little bit of both. Like it still had that
And
charm,
that's
but
the
it also had
argument.
new
There's new
stuff going
little
on.
wows, right? But
And that's the argument I want to make about Dreamlights too, is that it's both grandiose and charming.
It is,
You know, it's
at times,
this
yeah.
big spectacle with all these giant different floats, but it still feels like a natural evolution of the Main Street Electrical.
Oh yeah, but if you left Dreamlights alone for 50 years, it would reach that point where it's no longer technically impressive. It's just charming.
It's just charming.
At that, which is where we are with Electro Parade. It's not. There's nothing technically impressive about any of it.
No.
What is great about it is it's just characters and things made of Christmas lights to this really enthralling musical soundtrack that has been passed down from same as Tiki Room. It's all the charm of the Tiki Room.
Yeah.
The Tiki Room is not, when it opened, it blew people away. It was something no one had ever seen before. 50 years later, it doesn't blow anyone away. People are just so charmed by the fact it's this little room, it's small and intimate, and these birds sing little charming songs, and it's just cute, and that works, right? Either World of Color, you sit there and you're blown away, and then Tiki Room, you sit there and you're just unbelievably charmed by how adorable and historic that space is.
Yes.
And it's been, and your grandfather
thing-
sat in there, your father sat in there, and now you're sitting in there. And it's this thing that's, same with Electro Parade, it's this thing that's passed down at this point from generation to generation.
Well, and there's definitely something about
What's nice about
the lights, because
What's nice about things that are charming is what's nice about things that are charming is the fact that people my age, they might not have this attachment necessarily to like my father saw this and it's this historical thing, but people will still sit down and they'll be 15, 17, 25 and watching the Main Street Electrical Parade, and they'll still be charmed by it, and they'll still think it's this cute thing that they can it's fun Disney characters at Christmas lights. It touches
it's well
that
executed and it's
quintessential
quality. Right?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
50
It
years
touches that
later,
quintessential
it's still
kind
high
of-
quality and it's still well executed.
But those people that are 20, that it's not passed down from generation to generation, still, when that first float pulls up, see that 50 years and are like, wow, that's crazy.
It's still impressive.
And that gives the charm. It's part of the charm. You're like, wow, this thing's been here for 50 years. This is really cool. And it's 50 years old. That's wild.
So I mean,
absolutely.
I think my biggest takeaway from nighttime entertainment is that, like Tom, you make a good argument that we can't handle crowds in the Magic Kingdom, so we can't have a nighttime parade and fireworks at the same time.
We could. There's no good reason.
There's no good reason to, right? Okay, I can see that argument. That's fine. But your follow-up to that argument was, well, you can go to Epcot and have a nighttime show there, or Studios or Animal Kingdom. But you can't at Studios and Animal Kingdom. And so until they bring shows back at Studios and Animal Kingdom...
I'm talking about pre-COVID.
I know.
We still are not... I know it's hard when we do historical stuff, right? Because we don't know the end result of the time we live in. As opposed to before, like... we didn't foresee that there was anything that could change the way of life we had, right? And I think it's the same way we were before 9/11 and the same way we were before COVID. And so we don't know. Like a year from now, we could have nighttime shows in most of the parks, if not all of them again, so.
So, I mean, that directly impacts my value argument.
Well, obviously right now you have to decide if it's worth it for you, but I think they are still at a point where the general public is going to give them a pass, right? They're not.
They're still at a point
where they're not back
where
up to speed yet.
They're still at and they're also still at a point where people have gone through effectively vacation starvation for 3 years, and are dying to go on any vacation they can.
18 months from now, we're going to have a very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 18 months, 2 years. So when this backup of untaken vacations finally peters out, things are going to look very different around here, I think. And if there's not some nighttime entertainment back in more than half of the parks, I think there's.
Well, we know Fantasmic by the end of the year.
I know, but no, I think there's going to be a reckoning.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I think part of it also might come, like, there's been a lot of talk about how is Disney going to respond to Epic, and by and large, they probably won't. But something with nighttime entertainment is going to be a lot easier to change and to say, hey, we're doing this thing. Yeah. Even though Universal built this really cool new park, come to Disney World. I mean, that could be a good time for them to say, hey,
cool or not.
Yeah. Well,
you weren't necessarily blown away by Super Nintendo World, so
I mean,
it'd also be the third one of them by then.
Spencer, the other side of that argument is that generally people used to come to Disney World and stay for a week. And then they started realizing there's some other parks around here that are pretty high quality stuff. So then they would come to Disney World and stay for 4 or 5 days, and then they would spend 2 days at Universal.
And they sort of realized one of their kids liked Harry Potter, and there were Harry Potter things to do.
Or that.
And then they realized there were 2 pretty decent roller coasters across town if you really like them.
Or that.
Yeah.
But so I think this, honestly, I think Epic Universe, when it opens, is not going to take away days from a Disney trip. It's going to take away the SeaWorld day or the Busch Gardens day.
Or visitation from the other 2 Universal parks. I think the short-sighted thing is Disney made this mistake already.
With Animal
Kingdom opened.
Yes.
Animal Kingdom hurt the attendance of Epcot and Hollywood Studios.
Yes.
Severely. People didn't come to Orlando for longer. They just decided, like, oh, we went to Hollywood Studios last year. We don't have to go.
I mean,
they don't have anything new. We don't have to go.
People's vacations are set up to be a week long. Yeah. You can't open new parks and expect that paradigm to change. And so you're right. It's going to take.
Well, that's the thing is you can add a parade or a new fireworks show or something, and it might be like, well, there's this new thing at Disney World that we got to see instead of going to.
But they don't, and we don't know for sure that it's going to make a difference, right? Because we all float together. So the question is, if Universal opens a new park and people are like, oh, I got to see Super Nintendo World. You're coming to Orlando, are they not going to be like, I guess I haven't been to Galaxy's Edge yet. I should probably go see that. I haven't been to Pandora yet. Like, we forget this, and they're not everything are things we want to see. But Disney already invested, right? If Tron is open by then, and Guardians is in Epcot, and Pandora is in Animal Kingdom, and Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land are in studios, you know, those are things that would have opened in the last 5 to 7 years within Epic. There's probably, those people will probably still go to Disney World, right? They will be reactionary, right? They were reactionary to Potter. It was very much like, all right, that opened and did great. Let's do the Fantasyland thing. Let's invest in that, you know, and
that's true.
They may not make the mistake again, because I don't think I look at the new Fantasyland project and I say, that was successful, that improved that park. I think those were necessary changes. And I think they look at it and are like, well, it didn't really do attendance-wise what we thought it was going to do.
Well, no, because the level they're judging it against is what was attendance before Harry Potter opened.
Yeah.
Right? The level, so their goal shouldn't be to make attendance grow. It should be, here's competition. Yeah. If we can at least keep attendance the same, we got to call that a win. But that's not seen as a win on Wall Street.
The problem is, again, Walt Disney World will never see the benefit of upkeeping facilities. The areas they replaced New Fantasyland with were the dumpiest, oldest, junkiest, temporary parts of the park. Like Toontown was not meant to be there. Ariel's Grotto, the abandoned lagoon space, like it was junk space that someone had to do something with it. But again, we are so off topic of where we're supposed to be, and it's 12:30.
I was trying to tie this into nighttime entertainment, and I kept getting put in other directions.
But yes, they could. If they decided, like a year and a half out from Epic, they're like, hey, maybe we should do something to prepare. You know what the easiest answer always is at the last minute is entertainment. Entertainment is so much more nimble than Imagineering or anyone else. And that's why when Animal Kingdom canceled a whole land, when they canceled Beastly Kingdom, the entertainment department came in and they made Festival of the Lion King, which is one of the highest testing shows, one of the highest testing attractions of all time. So the entertainment people can do it, even on short notice, and even sometimes with not much of a budget. So, you know, that becomes a question. Is it a thing that, is it an ace in the hole? Is Paint the Night or a new nighttime parade something that is an ace in a hole for Disney World at some point
I
in
sure
the next
hope
few
it
years?
is.
I know we hope it is. I don't know that there's any real reason to do it. I think, again, it's not like Disney World has less nighttime shows once Fantasmic comes back. It's just that they're spread out. They're in different places. Do you need more than one at each park at Disney World?
I mean,
don't think
we have less because we don't have Rivers of Light. And we also,
Fantasmic, Fireworks, World of Color, I guess Parade, yeah, sure.
and we also have lower quality in 2 out of 3 instances.
In the Disneyland fireworks show.
You'll
I don't
actually
like
end up, I
Disneyland
think,
for
with
that
less than us once our entertainment's back up and rolling, because we'll have the Castle Show, Dream Lights, and Sea of Dreams whenever that opens.
Let's simplify this
we'll
right
have
now.
3 or 4, yeah.
Let's simplify this conversation to just thoughts about the Electrical Parade reaching its 50th anniversary, and if there is still merit, perhaps beyond the 50th, of it continuing, or should this be the actual?
Hell no. It should absolutely continue. People love it. Why would you not continue it? Who cares how old it is? People love it. The Tiki Room is older than 50 years. People still love it. There's no talk of shutting it down.
You already successfully replaced Electrical Parade, though. You built Paint the Night, and people really like it. So you don't.
That's true.
You don't
There is
need
no
both.
such thing as a successful
and you have it. So
replacement of the
I
Tiki Room.
think maybe you should make this a legitimate farewell and say this time, this is actually it. This is the last time in the world anyone will have the Main Street Electrical Parade. I think you will do unbelievable numbers that will make 1996 look like an off year. And I think you run this. You let it. You don't have to be just for summer. I think you let it run through the year, even into next summer. I think that's it. I think this is it.
I think you have to. Nothing lasts forever. This isn't going to be around 50 years from now. There's just not. No. It's just not possible.
And you've proven you can replace. You did Paint the Night.
Nobody is going to believe them. If they say that the Main Street Electrical Parade is going to be paid, they're not going to believe it.
Well, I mean, no one believed them when they said Spectrum Magic was going to come back either. But the
That's
problem,
true. I did follow that parade knowing, like, that night, I was like, this ain't coming. There's no way.
The problem, I think, Tom, with your take on it, is that if you want to do a proper farewell to Main Street Electric Parade, it has to come to Florida, too. I don't think you can do a farewell.
I don't think it matters. I think if anyone from here cares, they will go out there. If you tell them that you have 1 year to say goodbye, I think people will show up.
I think they will.
Disneyland owns it. We don't own it.
I know.
So it's the ball is in their court.
I know.
We're not going to pay to build a new one. We're not going to pay to buy it from them. We're not going to do any of those things. We don't care. And I don't think that event means as much here.
It doesn't.
It is intrinsically not our thing.
Right.
There are things that are our things. If you told people that Space Mountain was going away.
Country Bears.
It's a little close to home. Things like that, I think. But even then, like, Disney World doesn't have that same culture. So yes, us in the fan community, we will show up in droves, but the general public will not care.
Yeah.
At Disneyland, if you're like, this is the last performance in the world for this parade, it will never perform at another Disney park ever. This is absolutely the end. We are going to destroy the floats. We're going to put 2 in the archives.
There'll be a bonfire at the end of the parade
destroyed.
line.
Here's the problem.
The drum, the train, and Elliot are going to the archives, and the rest, we're going to just light them up.
The thing is, they're never, ever in a million years going to do that because it's a guaranteed attendance boost. And it gets people
But so is Paint the Night, and I don't think it's a. I don't think one is a bigger draw than the other. This made sense because of merchandise. This was a better decision purely for merchandise. But once you aren't in a 50th, and it's back to like generic Electrical Parade merchandise, your sales are different, and there's no real driving factor to pick one over the other.
Here's the problem with anyone at the Walt Disney Company saying this is the last time forever, is that the management turnover at the Walt Disney Company is so frequent that that decision could be agreed upon by 85% of all the managers at the company.
You commit to it, and then you just leave it out in the sun for a few months.
Well, I mean, they'd have to physically do something, right? Like if they're going to just put it back in storage containers and leave it in the backstage because maybe they'll need it if something else bad happens, that's always a temptation for future management to just bring it back. And so the question is, unless there's a very public and visible destruction of the parade, no one's going to believe them. I think it's.
I just feel like I think it's a decision they're going to want to make, because I think they are so hung up on their current intellectual properties that they undoubtedly want Paint the Night to come back.
They probably do.
Because they were in such a, they're like, immediately when someone's like, we could get rid of the America float, they're like, slap everything on there. Raya, Tiana, Encanto, whatever we've got from the last few years, just slap it on. Let's do it.
And the problem, I think, is that that's all well and good, but if merchandise sales for Electrical Parade remain high, right? Like, they could come out with new lines of merchandise. It doesn't
they're high
have
for
to
the
say-
50th. I don't think there's that. There's not going to be that mania and that craziness if it's not an anniversary.
So I think Jason's right that we need nighttime entertainment around here at Walt Disney World. I don't think Main Street Electrical Parade is an answer.
No, I'm not saying it is.
Well, so let it go gracefully, let it go rightfully. Like, it's going to
You have a
eventually
replacement that people have accepted as the replacement. There was no sign of Electrical Parade coming back in 2015 when they got Paint the Night.
Right.
And as soon as Paint the Night premiered, everyone's like, yep, we're good, thanks.
Right.
And then you brought back Electrical Parade. People were pissed.
Right.
Your
And
hardcore
so-
fans were actually like, no, thank you, we're good.
And so what was the driver behind that decision? And why did that decision happen?
I assume it was some union thing with those costumes or whatever the case may be.
Well, then they just have to redo the costumes
They put it off.
somehow.
And then, honestly, like, when someone sat down and was like, the parade's almost made it to 50, we got to run the 50th season.
That makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So I think that was the decision, was like, we'll run it summers 17, 18, 19. We'll run it all these summers until we get to 50, and then that's the last run. And then Paint the Night will have been away for a few years, so when we bring that back in, we're going to see as big a boost as we did for the 50th season of Electrical Parade.
And so I'm fine with that, as long as we're guaranteed that Paint the Night is going to come back. Like, they've had plenty of time to fix the problems with the costumes. Like, there's no more excuses.
I think it was a deliberate decision where it's like, we're going to run this out till the 50th year, and we'll make our money, and then
it makes sense.
Then we'll roll Paint the Night back in with like one new float, and then that's what it's going to be.
And that's fine, and people will be happy with that.
So you're saying you
And
don't
that's
mind
fine.
them destroying the Electrical Parade as long as there's a replacement right there to move right?
I would love if
what
they
I
could at
don't
least
mind
put
is
them
if
all
they-
in storage and archive it. That'd be great. That's not realistic because the archives is never going to keep all the floats.
What I wouldn't mind is if they auctioned off the parade floats, and that way it was ensured that they couldn't bring the parade back because they don't actually own it.
I'm sure they want
anymore.
someone owning the Electrical Parade float.
I mean, they're not that hard to make, to be completely honest. Right? Like, I could make one.
Yeah.
That's true. We probably actually could make our own Main Street Electrical Parade.
Have you met
roll it
us?
down
I don't know about
Celebration
this.
Boulevard.
I mean,
Lucas, maybe. I don't know.
As long as it's
In
made
fact-
out of like foam and paint.
Someone message Lucas. I want a spinning turtle.
For the 15th anniversary of WDWNT,
I want to
right?
drive
We're gonna
in
have
through the
Electrical Parade.
gate in the studio.
You
with-
told us that you're not allowed to have vehicles in here.
No, cars.
Oh, just car.
The lease says cars. It doesn't say anything about parade floats.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I didn't get away with it.
Then I think we should do
So,
it.
in this argument where you're saying it should be the last time that the Electrical Parade is performing anywhere at any Disney park on the planet, are you considering Dreamlights as a separate entity and a separate parade
It's a
for
new
this?
Electrical Parade. It's Electrical Parade in name, which is why we talked about it. But it's not.
It's not the same.
But like Paint the Night doesn't have the Electrical Parade name, right? But let's examine it. has a drum at the beginning,
pretty
doesn't
much
it?
an electrical parade.
I mean,
Right, but there's no reason to
It
go out
has
there and
rural
destroy a
codon
perfectly
in every
fine
unit.
parade that's running
No,
fine. With
it's a natural evolution.
But if they want to develop a replacement for it, go for it. And that's what I'm saying with electrical parade. I'm not saying let's stop it right now just for the heck of it.
if we were like, I'm in
move
charge of the
something in.
Walt Disney Company and I can do whatever I want. My plan is 50th mega farewell for electrical parade. Paint the Night comes back with 1 or 2 new units, and then you get Spectro Magic 2 in Florida, right? That's like I'm God and I can do whatever I want scenario.
Yeah.
In a real world scenario where if I was in charge, like honestly, would I? If I'm gonna spend money to fix Disney World, the nighttime parade is far from the first place I'm spending money.
Yeah.
There are a lot of places in Magic Kingdom and beyond I would plunk money in. That park needs more capacity, not necessarily more nighttime entertainment. It needs another land.
No,
it needs
people
you need to
stay.
bulldoze Tom Sawyer Island, pave it over, and build more things to do.
The problem is people stay till the park closes.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough stuff to do the whole time, or the park
And then when the
closes.
park's busiest in the middle of the day, there needs to be more stuff to do to shorten the lines. I mean, that's where the money needs to be spent in Florida. And rides that's what mean the most to people here. Like some entertainment draws, but the dumber crowd looks
they
at
want
rides. They look at rides. It's like, oh, that park has a lot of rides. I want to go to that park. And so I think you spend the money on rides. I mean, rides are more expensive, but I think it's the better investment. And honestly, in some cases, I think Hollywood Studios still needs more of them. I think you didn't really expand the park.
No.
So, like, Hollywood Studios has no parades, right? Hollywood Studios used to have a daytime parade. It used to have fireworks shows too. But in the end, I'm like, well, you have less rides and no entertainment. Well, at least build more rides then.
I mean, that's what
So
Animal
I'm going to
Kingdom
take
did.
a middle ground. I'm going to take a middle ground between Tom and Jason. I think that the Main Street Electrical Parade doesn't necessarily need to die. I think it needs to stop coming back every year or every other year. I think they need to put it away for 5 or 10 years, and then they can bring it back.
I think the storage, refurbishment,
need a
and
break.
maintenance cost have just
I don't
gotta
think they
be-
can put it away for 10 years and bring it back. They might as well just build a new one at that point.
Yeah, I think
But
Paint the Night will
my
store
point,
better
it
because it's
shouldn't
sturdier
die forever.
materials, but
It
I still
shouldn't
think they're gonna
die
have to spend
forever, but
millions
it
on
also
Paint the
needs
Night
to
to bring it
stop.
back out. Without a
It
doubt.
needs to stop being a crutch for them. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
See,
It needs to stop being their crutch.
This is gonna sound a little like, I don't know, a little weird, but like as I go on in life, I'm less sentimental about things. Like, no, I want to see new things. Like, I don't want the same thing that's been here for 50 years. I only got a certain amount of time on this planet. And I want to see a bunch of different parades. I want to see a bunch of different new things come in. I want to see updates on stuff, you know? So I don't want to see this electrical parade bounce back and forth for another 50 years. I want to see something new. I want to see something different. So that's my thing. Nothing lasts forever. It's time. Just build us something new. That's...
I mean,
or use the thing they already have.
I don't care.
You should keep the electrical parade only until I have a sipper or popcorn bucket of every float. Then you can retire the electrical parade. Because this is the best thing that's happened all year is this turtle.
Like, why do we want to see the same thing over and over and over and over again?
Because we like it.
Because people are nostalgic and they like this idea of, hey, I saw this when I was a kid and now I can take my kids or grandkids to see it.
Things need
That's
to
the whole
evolve, right?
shtick.
Like,
But Spencer, even notwithstanding that argument, the reason is because, hey, this is good, and all the garbage that Disney has been foisting on us in the past 10 years, I don't actually want to see.
Well, and that, I mean, but you're right. That's the underlying problem. And
So
why we
you
want
want
stuff to stay around.
change, and
But
I
change
want
isn't
change
good.
to
Like-
be quality replacements.
Like Mickey's Runaway Railway and Harmonious. And
None of those are quality replacements. I'd much rather be happy with something that's 50 years old that's good quality than say, we're going to change this because we need something new, and then get garbage.
To go back to an earlier point, Dreamlights gets it right? They have something really good, and so what they do is every couple of years, they go through and they freshen it up, right?
Yeah.
Like, when I talk about Great Movie Ride, you know, the morons on Twitter will go, oh, it was such a bad take, it was old and dated. Yeah, I'm not saying it should have stayed the same. I'm saying the concept of the attraction was great. You should update it and change the scenes every 15 to 20 years, probably.
And they didn't.
And they didn't, right? There was nothing wrong with the concept. The problem was that they didn't want to do that. They wanted to put something new in that made less sense and that was honestly a much lower quality thing. That's like Electro Parade. If you want to come back next year, if you want to be like, we're going to build like 3 really cool new floats for the Electro Parade that actually match the style of it, that's great. I don't think you can, because I think it's proven there. Like, that finale float doesn't really fit in. The materials that were used for the Electro Parade are not necessarily commonly used or great building materials. And so they're out of date. It's kind of a lost art. So Paint the Night is the current modern version of the same thing. It has been accepted as a valuable replacement, as something equal to or greater than what it replaced. And at that point, you can let go of this. And you can't let go of Horizons if the replacement is Mission Space, but you can let go of the Universe of Energy if your replacement is Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Because people generally will accept that that is as good or better than the thing it replaced, as opposed to Runaway Railway, where people generally won't accept that that is better or equal to what it replaced.
And to that point, as much as I love the Main Street Electrical Parade, I like Paint the Night better. I'm very happy with Paint the Night. The first time I saw Paint the Night, I was blown away.
In person, and I loved it.
The first time I saw it,
nostalgia is great when it means something. And I will say this, when they announced they were going to do a 50th run of Electrical Parade, I was excited because I thought, this is a really meaningful thing. I need to go out and see this. This is fantastic. This is a monumental moment in park history that this parade made it 50 years. It doesn't need to make it another year. It did the impossible already. There's no reason, unless it is like 5-10 years later, for it to come out again. But it's kind of insane to put that into storage for 10 more years just for a summer run. There's no way the numbers work out at that point. There's no way, whatever it costs you to store that in Southern California, where you don't have a lot of land and you probably don't own the storage facility, there's no way that those numbers work out in your favor. So I think it does become like, we've already got one of these things we got to store. Let's get the last couple of years of money out of Electrical Parade. This is the farewell. And then let's run the thing that we succeeded with, it's the successor. It's not like magic.
Right.
It did it. It successfully replaced it.
Yep, I agree.
I agree
and
too.
there will certainly be people who are angry when you say that the Main Street Electrical Parade is going away, but it's not going to be as massive of a majority.
I think way more people were upset that it was coming back. People were, I've seen every time a return's been announced, people get like, oh, okay, that's enough. And then even this one, I felt like I was the only person that was like, oh, this is great. And the rest of the fan community was like, enough is enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the only time it actually made sense. Why are you against it?
I think the problem is that people want to
paint the
night back. Yeah. That's what they want.
It's the sign that it's time to move on. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Disney, your audience has told you, like after this, they want that back. If you have another Electrical Parade return after this and Paint the Night is still missing, people are going to be livid.
They are absolutely going to be. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, no, I'm with you on this one. Absolutely.
And I mean, we'll just go to Tokyo and see Dreamlights and be happy.
There you go.
That's a great nighttime parade.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is if the Main Street Electrical Parade does finally permanently go away, you'll still get the same kind of thing if you just fly to Japan.
You'll get a kind of better thing.
That parade is never going away.
You'll get
some people are very either money. People have money concerns and things, so the answer can't always be just go to Japan, but.
But it's a good answer for a lot of things.
Like sometimes people find it off-putting when we say those things, so I want to put it in context. Like again, sometimes
just go to Japan.
I will say this again. I think I've run the numbers. Sometimes it's cheaper. For me, it's sometimes cheaper to go to Tokyo than it is to Anaheim. So, I mean,
it just depends on what you're looking for. I think the problem isn't that people necessarily think it's more expensive, because like I said, a Disney World week's vacation is pretty damn expensive.
It's a big barrier to go to another country.
There is a
perception about international travel in general that it is hideously expensive and absolutely cannot be done.
Well, and then there's also
really difficult. People are afraid to go to strange places, right? Like that kept me from going for a long time until people finally were like,
because it's a strange place. They don't speak the language. They don't know if they like the food. There's a lot of issues.
Until you take that first step outside, and then you're like, oh, this is people are people no matter where you go. It's not that, except China. But otherwise, people are people wherever you go.
That's what slows people down
from
going to...
Well, they hated us. They were mean to us the whole time. I mean, it's
slows
different.
people down from going to
But
Busch
everywhere
Gardens,
else,
Tampa.
they're nice.
Too.
What would you say?
Slows people down from going to Busch Gardens, Tampa, too.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go there. They're
Strange
mean
food,
there,
strange-
too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I went to the Busch Gardens.
All right.
But yes, congratulations to the Main Street Electrical Parade. 50 years. I mean, I don't believe another piece of theme park entertainment will ever. I mean, maybe Fantasmic, though.
Started out as a chunk of Christmas lights.
I didn't think about that. Fantasmic's already at 30, so.
In our hearts.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a good show, too.
Fantasmic is never going away. I think that'll stay.
That's
They'll
what they
change
said
it
in
again
Disney
before
Sea.
it goes.
No.
We all knew Fantasmic was going to
Thank God
go
they got
in
rid of that
Japan.
worst
We knew that
version
wasn't
at Disney
gonna
Sea,
stay.
right? Spencer agrees. Okay.
All right.
So, happy 50th anniversary of the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Woo!
Spencer, shut up. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Where's the take it away?
What?
Take it away, McFly.
Oh, I didn't know he had the ending. He did.
I don't know. Does he?
He does. It's playing.
Okay. Good.
Whoosh.
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 You don't get to whoosh.
No whoosh.
You haven't earned a whoosh yet.
I've worked